Evening, everybody. Let me just take a quick minute here to make sure that everything is set up the way that it needs to be, and then we should be ready to go. Okay, so I can see the game, and we've got our quality options. So, I hope you are all doing well. We are back, as you can see, for another round of Stellaris. We left things in sort of an interesting place, I think at least. In the sense that, you know, we've been looking for other species, namely to be able to set up criminal enterprises beside. But we are going to have the big challenge of basically instead of it being something of equal power or even just, you know, moderately higher power, we're dealing with two neighbors which are significantly more powerful than us. And on top of that, one is going to war with the other. So one of them is very aggressive, militarist. They're slaving despots, so they are definitely going to want to take us out. But they are currently at war with a species that's a little more friendly with us. The real drawback here is that the one that's friendly to us is more likely going to lose, and of course that's going to mean that all of their resources will go into this, you know, this powerful neighbor, making them even more powerful. So, Senior Q, how you doing? Great to see you again. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. I don't remember if I mentioned, but we obviously with the new patch, there's a new science fiction author. This one probably is a bit better known to most folks. I'm assuming it's named after Frank Herbert, who is the author of the Dune books. He did actually do more than Dune, but I think it's fair to say that this is the one that everyone remembers him for. And I actually wanted to go see the new adaptation that's out, and then. I'm not just in Eastern Canada. I'm actually specifically in the city in which the Omicron variant has shown up. So, you know, I don't want to live my life completely, you know, at the whims of a virus. On the other hand, probably not the smartest time for me to be going out and sitting in a movie theater for an extended period of time. So, have you thought about one way or the other? The hive mind is not the one that I really want to work with. I mean, they like me well enough, but I need to keep I actually care about the stronger enemy. So I guess that should bring me back to the game. So kind of as has always been the case, we are short on administrative capacity, long on ambitions. Actually, now would not be a bad time for me to. Okay, so we are going to get a little administrative capacity. And then the Subra 1 habitat will open up. Although again, we're gonna have to wait for people to move in. Okay, so I think I had originally been kind of looking at, or it was the Kuiper system. I'd sort of seen ships jumping in and out, and I was like, okay, 5K is something that I can't really handle right now. The big problem that I have with that inference is that was very likely the Carabineers and not this enemy. Well, they're not enemies yet. But But yeah, they were. There was something bouncing in and out of the system with the Stellarite Devourer, but I'm less and less willing, or I'm less and less certain that that was an enemy force. So I guess the more that I think about it, the more I really just kind of need to stay the course. So I've locked up one of my units with the just improving relations, and this is just a pure survival mechanism. We've ran into this before. We got to play Space Canada in a previous playthrough. That playthrough went poorly for other reasons, but as far as the having a very strong neighbor, basically being able to avoid any kind of dust up, and that is up to and including, like we keep our borders open, just generally play nice. It's not, I don't want to say like it's been the most reliable strategy, but it's one that we've been able to live with in the past. One drawback here is that because of my growth rate, I'm not entirely convinced that we're going to be able to get an empire that's this large and eventually overtake it at the current rate that we have. This is where the administrative divisions become quite a bit more important. One possibility that I was exploring, and I don't know if I ever said this explicitly inside of the stream, but there is the possibility of making, hey, Cool Facts, how you doing? Sorry, Cool Facts, second of their name. Is this an alternative account, or is this just a renaming of the old one? But yeah, so one of the possibilities I was considering was, making, essentially kind of seeding future coalition partners or vassals or whatever. Now, one drawback for that is right now I've kind of put everything into, this one sector here, and then there'd be a future one in the Subra sector. It's a tempting one just because that does sort of alleviate some of the Empire sprawl issues. And it also gives me some places to dump some criminal enterprises. But it is less attractive just for the simple fact that it costs so much to be able to build these habitats. And, obviously I'd be building multiple ones for the express purpose of handing that off to an entity that I would no longer really directly control, and I have a feeling that would really start messing with my capacities. So, I don't know. I may resort to that at some point, but for now, I think I'm going to try and just grow my administrative abilities to keep pace with my ambitions. We're doing quite well for ship capacity. I have a feeling that probably if I were to max out this number, I'd actually run into a deficit for alloys and maybe not energy, but again, hopefully that will maybe let me grow into a more credible threat to the neighbor. But one of the big factors that I was trying to weigh was, the Julau system's been upgraded, so I can't exactly throw my navy against that right now anyway. But one of the considerations I had was, because there's a war currently going on between the Nara Consciousness and the Lox Ungrak Va Royal States, I was kind of allowing for the possibility that maybe I just want to take these three sectors, which I now have claims on, incidentally, and essentially sort of claim all of this for myself. And there's two really obvious problems with that, which is number one, so three obvious problems. Number one, oh god, this is going to be one of those nights, isn't it? Do you happen to own the game yourself, Senior Q 2020? But yeah, anyways, the what was I going to try and say? The base in Julau already. Well, here's the thing. I appreciate you being here, and I actually do like chat participation, but the one thing that is guaranteed to basically kill any enjoyment of a game for me is being told how to play it from people. And I understand that everybody kind of has their own lines in terms of that, and it particularly sucks if if you're interested in a game and you don't have access to it, or you can't play it, or you're saving up for it, that people make decisions other than your own. But the biggest thing that I've tended to find is that when I'm given instructions, or when I've been told to play a game a particular way, it stops me from being able to talk about the game and to be able to make my own mistakes and just put on a show like that. And instead, it's just becoming a fleshy implementation of chat's algorithm. I mean, there's plenty of people who certainly enjoy, saying something, and then if it doesn't turn out, or I lose or whatever, then it'll be, haha, I told you so, you suck at the game. And at that point, I'm like, sure, takes a lot to make me cry, right? I don't feel that I need to beat a game to be able to do, to enjoy it. But the biggest thing for me is, this is the very first time I played a Criminal Enterprise. This is a chance for me to try out some things. And in fact, one of the reasons why I like trying things out without necessarily doing reference to what other people's approaches have been is that I get to learn more things about the game, and I get to try out different approaches. I really have not actually played Stellaris on my own for a very long time in this game. For a very long time, because I've been streaming it. So, I think maybe just because this is as good of an example as anything else, this is why being told how to play the game really doesn't work for me, because I cease to play the game, and instead we wind up talking about the dynamics of chat. So I never want to take your contributions for granted. I don't want you to feel like you can't be here, but I'd like it if you could maybe take the gas off a bit on that. Yeah. How you doing? It's huge. But yeah, I hope you appreciate the spirit at which it's given. Just maybe if in the interest of trying to put on as good of a show as I can, I'll let the matter drop. But that's I figured I'll try and leave it there. But yeah, so the biggest drawback for me is just the simple fact that there's a starbase there now, which is bigger than any of than my biggest fleet. I could probably do a small technological boost to it, and I certainly have no shortage of ships that I can throw at the Julau system. And yet, what is that really going to accomplish? Well, in the best case scenario, I'm able to, snag these three and create even more border tension than there really should be. And don't get me wrong, the prize for this is huge, right? It's a Gaia world, plus the wormhole. But the in addition to the fact that it's obviously going to really annoy a powerful neighbor, there is no guarantee whatsoever that I'm going to be able to take these and hold them long enough that I'm going to be able to sort of get that status quo peace or enforce demands while they're fighting the hive mind. It's entirely possible that they will direct resources away from the Nar consciousness to deal with me. And in that particular case too, it might go well for the Nar consciousness, but I don't necessarily want the Nar consciousness to do well. I just want them to not be beaten by the bad guys. You're learning about Keynesian economics right now. One thing that's actually kind of neat about this, it's huge, is there's well, I wanted to try and move past it, cool facts, but I've actually had, this has been something that's been a deal with my stream for a very long time, pretty much since the first time I was streaming it. So I was playing Democracy 3 originally. And this is back when I couldn't necessarily guarantee anybody to come into the channel. And so somebody would come in, and they quite literally told me everything to do in Democracy 3. And it was completely different from the way that I wanted to play. But I'm like, okay, well, I want to try and, I committed to doing regular streams, so I did it. They didn't stay, they got what they wanted and they left, and I didn't enjoy Democracy 3 as much as I would have that evening. So then I was doing Crusader Kings 2, similar thing happened, and at that point I was feeling very comfortable with Crusader Kings 2. And so the person told me what to do, and I said, well, I really don't think that's going to work, but tell you what, it's, I'm not that invested in this save. Let's give this a shot, and, we can learn something, I guess. So I go in, it was basically to take a certain battle, and sure enough, we just get completely demolished. It's not even close. That was never going to work. But, I'm actually really susceptible to people who just assert stuff. Because I'm sort of the opinion is well, clearly somebody wouldn't be so stupid as to just, blurt out an assertion that has no basis in reality. Surely there's got to be something there. Maybe I just don't understand how this game works. No, it turns out that people on the internet just really like to talk a lot of nonsense. And the consequence for so I'm not too worried about it. I'm like, okay, so that was the thing I was worried about, but we can still win this war. It's not a big deal. And the guy got mad at me, and I'm like, well, that's not I'm not entirely sure what I could have done differently there. I did exactly what was requested, but of course, because it didn't turn out. And then for a while, especially because people generally associate me as being at least quote unquote nice or inoffensive, it was a great chance for a while to put on this performative anger with people. And there's two things that came out of that, which was, number one, I think more people thought that I was serious. And I mean, I've had a few messages coming in, people claiming mental health problems. I mean, those are the people who I was yelling at. So, that in that case, they're just not wanting, some people, they got to have the last word, right? But particularly if I'm doing a game which I've been given a key for, or in general, if you want to establish a certain kind of tone, as fun as it is to let the demon out every once in a while, that's not something I really wanted to rely on that much. I'm not going to lie, it has actually been the most effective way to stop backseating in the channel. It's why I kind of regret not continuing to do it, because man, was it cathartic, and it, because I mean, let's face it, everybody wants a chance to play it up, right? But obviously, especially if I'm doing, one of the brace yourself games, right? If somebody started backseating me in Phantom Brigade and I start screaming at someone, I wouldn't really want to, I wouldn't want to represent the game that way. And I know the developers watch it. I'm not sure they wouldn't like to hear me yelling at one of their fans. So, yeah, this is just in reply to Cool Facts disappointed parent thing. I have tried, because in my day-to-day life, I tend to believe that giving reasons for things and being able to explain a thought process is the best way to try and bring about an understanding. That's how I do it now. And I realize it kind of sounds like a disappointed parent thing. And to a certain extent it is, because in the end, this has been the thing for years, right? And to me, I've never ever seen in a big channel someone being allowed to come in and assume that it's okay to tell someone how to play a game. It's only something that happens on smaller channels. And to a certain extent, I think it's because people feel like, well, these people are desperate, right? So they're going to be able to, they're going to be more tolerant of it. That's where that comes from. But again, I never want to put someone on blast. I mean, if somebody's becoming repetitively a pest, I'll put them on blast, but that's for me to do, right? And anyways, I just wanted to unpack that. Yeah, no, and sorry, Senior Q. Like, I just want to be clear on that. The only reason I'm bringing this up again was just because of what Cool Facts wrote, and I wanted to try and give some of the context on that. Yeah, it's like I really didn't want to reopen that, save for the fact that there was another thing that came up inside of the context. You are obviously your own person. You're not the other people that I ran into on that one. But obviously, I'm gonna come back from my own experience, both with Stellaris, which I basically played since it first came out, although this type of playthrough is very different because I haven't done a Criminal Enterprise before. But then there's the, but yeah, just because somebody said disappointed parent side thing, I'm like, that's the long story about it. Although it does have a nice side effect, which is I didn't say I was trying to get started early, and I obviously failed at that. Now's not a bad time before I go too much further in the game to say that I am playing a copy of Stellaris Nemesis that was given to me from Paradox. Obviously, I'm very grateful for that. And they have been giving me keys for Stellaris since actually a little bit before it first came out. So I will be playing. I'm playing all of the DLC that I'm playing has been, as well as the base game, was given to me from Paradox for promotional purposes. The exceptions to this would be humanoids, which I bought, as well as plantoids. And then I do not own necroids and the new aquatics species pack. Although on that note, now that you know about the disclosure, I should mention that Stellaris is currently on sale. So I believe, I mean, I know I've got my Humble link, but probably the most convenient for most people is Steam. And if you go on there, I believe Stellaris is 75% off. Most of the DLC is 50% off. Nemesis, I don't believe, is on sale. I think Federations is 33% off. And then the new species pack, plantoids and necroids, are at a lower discount. So, oh, thank you, Senior Q. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have like a private list of things. I'll get into the game in a second here, but like I don't have a list of private grudges. So like on Friday, there was someone in chat who every time they had something to say in chat, it was either to basically say how they had not interacted with the thing I was talking about, or to talk about why the thing I was talking about was bad. And eventually I had to just come out and say, like, you guys are really bringing me down right now. And it's a shame because there was another viewer who'd come in, Crack Steve, who was talking about really liking No Man's Sky. And I love it when people say that they like No Man's Sky because so much negativity gets thrown at that game. And the game that people are mad at doesn't exist anymore. But it went from I'm excited about this thing and I'm enjoying it to wasn't it so bad on release? And it's like, why would you destroy the opportunity to celebrate something that you enjoy to talk about, something you didn't, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But it's a big thing about gaming. So that was one of the few times I kind of had to put my foot down. It's not even that I don't want people to talk about stuff that matters to them, but I do think sometimes we have a tendency to to let the negative run out. Actually, I'll be honest with you. Like, I've had something of a mixed relationship with with Paradox's DLC policies. I think some of them are absolute nonsense. And I think some of them are really, actually pretty fair. Like, I'll be honest with you, while I have obviously been given a lot of DLC for this game, I'm actually quite okay with the way that DLC has been done with Stellaris so far. I sort of feel that the value proposition is very clear, and that you have sort of the different layers of engagement that you may or may not be interested in. Now, obviously, everybody's kind of got their own take on that. But clearly, it would be much less enjoyable if I were to just be constantly complaining about, Paradox's DLC policies. In the case of Stellaris, it wouldn't be true. But even for the things where I'm sort of like, you know what, that kind of seems a bit aggressive for what you're getting. it'd just be a drag. Like, you know, who wants to watch a broadcast of somebody complaining about something all the time? So in that spirit, now that I've got my disclosures out of the way, we can come back to the task at hand. So we got a few more days before the colony comes online. We'll throw some administrative divisions in, which will allow us to expand. Our main expansion target is sort of this branch right here. Oh yeah, actually that's a good point too. I think I'm already on my way to. I think I'm already on my way to building a colony ship for the new Gaia world that we're going to make. Now this, I mean, if anything, this is a pretty severe provocation on our part, because this is just going to make that border territory all the more attractive for them to conquer. Which, of course, I mean, with that in mind, maybe Gruner Prime would be the good one for me to also a little more. I don't know, canonical for me to turn into a Gaia world, but one way or the other, I definitely want to make sure that I'm properly taking care of like the resources that I have available for me. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of expecting to only be able to jump on Gaia worlds and Relic worlds. This one I'm still pretty sure there's going to be. I guess the dragon would be up in Redor. This is actually one which I'm a bit worried about, because I don't think I'm going to be able to expand fast enough. But obviously there's so many good resources here that my not real ally, but something approximating it, will potentially gobble up. Science-wise, this thing just got kind of captured, or not captured, but it's behind enemy lines, so we'll leave it here. If they go to war, I'll maybe destroy it or try and run it through or something like that. There's not a whole lot to be done about it, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, the rest of it, I should have worked out some kind of an IOU system for extra ships, but what we're looking at right now is basically enough capacity to have 3 full fleets like this. So I will be building up my alloys to get myself... I mean, again, the more ships I build, the scarier I look.
Colony established.
And the less likely...
Let's offer a speedy return on investment.
The less likely the bad guys are going to try and beat me up for my lunch money or my colony worlds. Okay, so I'm gonna put a gene clinic on here first. This is a little scary to do because, of course, it takes up consumer goods, but I do need the growth. So gene clinic first, administrative offices next. We will replace this with an administrative office sooner rather than later. And if I use Kirox's private staff, actually, that's probably not the best. An industrial station would not be something like my industrial station would not be the worst candidate. The only exception might be that I'd like a leisure district. Actually, yeah, you know what? We'll see how that turns out for me. And are we still... Yeah, we're still digesting that big alloy purchase. So yeah, we're going to be a very long time before we're able to get Zandaban. Oh. Elections are in progress. We will abstain. But is... Kirlox is available for to take the boss job again. So abstain. And all right, Kirok, we've elected Kirox, previous governor on Kirox's private stash, to become the next ruler. So after a small power grab, so actually, I know there's a couple of people who like The Sopranos who watch. So this is either we had a little while we let Junior run things to get the wrong, or to get the right people looking in the wrong place, or there was a small power struggle and the boss is back. But Either way, I'm happy about this because there is a population growth mandate. I guess we need to put Loxodal in position. I mean, I'm not crazy about the fact that they're kind of running things here because there is that crime element, but I'm not quite ready to hire a new governor yet. Now, as a secondary goal, I mean, one, just out of pure necessity, but number two, because it's a good to have, I would like to sort of seal this off for myself. And again, if I can, I'd love to open up a passage to this side of the galaxy, but obviously, this has been kind of closed off by our neighbors. So I have a feeling I'm probably going to lose that. I'm probably going to lose that race.
Anomaly found. Hey, can we monetize this?
Optical sensors isolate a cluster of shapes on the barren surface of Oxymon 4 that could be buildings. So we'll do the research.
I found something.
Sensors are reporting a number of possible points of interest within the dense debris field surrounding TFL-64D. I think I was talking about this last week where I wasn't 100% sure
This tech had better generate some revenue.
why it felt like I had so many anomalies, and then I reminded myself it's because I've got so many science ships running around. Alright, shields. These new shield generators represent the next generation of energy screens, replacing the older deflector technology. They offer significantly better production. Yeah, I mean, so the cohesion, I think, was always... Again, my memory's really off on this one. Because there's tons of, little details. Like, you know, your ability to either put things into sectors and pull them out. I mean, it used to be that you could spend influence to pull out resources, and I think they got rid of the influence at some cost for that at some point. But then that kind of effectively removes caps from resources, so that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense either. The cohesion mechanic was originally intended to try and prevent this sort of nonsense from happening. But I don't think it necessarily did a good job of it, because I never felt like I never really felt penalized by it. So it's a tricky one. And I run into this with Cultist Simulator sometimes too, where I'll play the game based on an old patch as opposed to a new one. But, you know, it's in practical terms, I'm just not that worried about it. The biggest argument for me taking to take one of these regions is actually just to try and make it so that I can minimize the number of star bases that I need to build. I'm at 3 of 4 right now, and if I could put something at Jinkath, and if, you know, in theory I wasn't to expand any further, Amlitzer, you know, that would at least kind of make sure that I'm sort of all sealed up from any potential threats. All right, old-timey tunes. A golden disc strikes the forward viewport of the ISS Irid Gra as it is surveying the weak gravitational field of TFL-64D. The object is recovered, and cursory analysis indicates that the minuscule grooves on the disk's surface might be encoded audio and video data authored by some alien civilization. So we could try and get engineering research out of it, which is tempting. We certainly have no shortage of need. One way that I could potentially think about this trade-off, and again, this is where I think there's a bit of a kind of a cleavage between two, there aren't just two types of Stellaris players, but if you're someone like me where it's sort of nice that it's sometimes slow to get through stuff because everything kind of becomes new and fresh every once in a while. You know, I don't have a perfect memory for all the events. So if you knew what decode it gave you, then effectively the decision I would need to make would be I guess it's 67 that I'm earning, but basically is about 2 years worth of engineering worth whatever. Oh, sorry, it does say it here. So adds the Sol system coordinates on the situation log. Well, that's definitely...
Log updated.
Definitely what I want to do. I don't always get a chance to see the Sol system in Stellaris. So the question now is, I suppose the existence of the gold record
Prospect analyzed.
implies that civilization at least got to a spacefaring age, but that doesn't necessarily mean we'll find humans here. Alright, we're definitely dragging our feet on getting this system surveyed. Oh, but it looks like there's only one more planet left, so...
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
Okay, I can live with that. So I guess the question would be, where do I want to send... We've already got 2 in this area over here. We got 1 up there. We'll start with that. I don't think there's any more archaeology for me to be doing for the next little while. And then with our... So this isn't going to help my... This is definitely not going to help my sprawl at all, but it does give me access to a slightly more attractive system. I should have a colony ship somewhere in here now. Oh. That was a week too early. Okay, so I do not want this to colonize the world that I had originally scheduled. Again, if you had a big navy at a Gaia world on your border, like, what would you do to your neighbors?
Prospect analyzed.
Okay, let's get take care of this lower area for starters. And I never decided what path I wanted to take on the mercantile tradition. So we didn't do supremacy or anything like that, just because we need to at least be in the fight before we can really get the benefits of those bonuses. So clerks will produce additional trade value, and that leads to commercial zones providing better more merchant jobs. Which, fair enough, but I'm probably not going to be building commercial segments on, commercial zones on, habitats, which are very limited in terms of what they, what we have. So adaptive economic policies probably makes more sense, although I'm likely not going to change. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to convert that trade value. But I do get, the insider trading and marketplace of better ideas is tempting. So yeah, we'll actually get both of these first, and then we'll head down the left-hand side. So, adaptive economic policies. By adopting a more flexible approach to economic affairs, we will be able to recalibrate our economy to anticipate every eventuality. Speaking of, I think we've leveled out. Nope, looks like we're still... I'll wait till these numbers stop going down.
Boom! We built something.
Okay, that's an important step. Where'd the colony ship go? Oh, crap. Oh, there we go. So this is going to be a big question mark in terms of how it works. We should have the option to be able to turn this into a Gaia world right away. But again, I haven't used the seed before, so this planet offers low habitability for the selected species. Colonization is still possible, but all pops will suffer an increase in upkeep and resource usage. Do you still want to colonize the planet? Yes. Planets are just really big, dirty space stations. Or habitats. So I should always keep an eye out for enemy ships just to get an idea of their numbers, and then if I can, it'd be nice to get a bit of a view as to whether or not there's any construction ships moving out. But again, we've got quite a wait ahead of us in terms of getting the Empire Sprawl where it needs to be, so I shouldn't be... I really should not be counting these systems until, well, for a while.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
So we just need 2 more of those. I think those cost about 200. 254. And as long as my science ships have something in the queue, we're fine. I might be tempted to move the You'd find it hilarious if the first species we encounter were turtle-like. You'd point to your stream and say that it was predicted.
Planetary exploitation forecast.
You're not talking about the the Sol species, right? You're talking about in general, because I do recall we did run into some more turtles. Actually, maybe it was these. No, it wasn't these ones. There's definitely a turtle species we ran into. I'm not mixing up games, am I? I don't know. We'll figure it out, but... Wait a minute. The Natraxis... I never realized this! Okay, so this is the Natraxi civilization, whereas we are the Natraxian rum runners. This is the...
Anomaly found.
This is...
Can we monetize this?
This is the risk you run when you use the game's random name generation. Somewhere beneath Akamar 3's unctuous clouds, unnatural structures silhouette themselves against a toxic surface. Much like streaming on Twitch.tv. Sorry, that's that's a cheap shot. Possibly a true shot, but still a cheap shot.
Priming planet for settlement.
This is actually, for what it's worth, one thing that I really do appreciate about all of you is that, so the example that I gave, the worst that I deal with is a case of people, either failing to engage with a topic or, talking about how much they dislike something as opposed to, something that they enjoy. That's obviously very different from what I have had to do as a moderator in other chats, and I know that is not... that's not an accident. That is very much a reflection of a lot of you, and it's not something that's ever guaranteed on Twitch. So I do actually thank you for setting a tone that makes it, feel like people can, behave and be their better selves in chat rather than basically how I behave whenever I'm in another chat. Talking about the Golden Disc event, you sometimes watch Politics Gaming and how he plays the game to see who would predict winning the presidential election. Oh, fair enough. Wait, you're not talking about Stellaris, because I know there's a couple of political games. So there's one in particular. Actually, let me see if I can find this, because I know they're a Canadian developer, and I wanted to see their stuff, but it's really... oh, God, what is it? I think they're in Victoria. I know they don't do... So this is the drawback, that there is actually something of a gaming boom that's happening in Victoria right now, so all the newspaper articles I'm finding are... all the search results are newspaper articles about this boom. I definitely saved this, though, because it was a hard one to find. 270 soft. Hey, Kodiak Samurai! How you doing? So yeah, I've personally not played these. Yeah, go nuts, Senior Q. I mean, I'm not the sort of person. I feel like if anybody's relying on like building up their community based on my viewership, I have a feeling that they are going to wind up more disappointed than anything. So, but I appreciate you asking nonetheless. But yeah, this is the developer that I was talking about. Moderator for a small channel as well. I haven't been around all that often for streams though. Yeah, definitely go ahead and do that. But yeah, so it looks like their most recent game is called President Infinity. This is actually a shame because sort of this great white whale project I've never like seriously sat down to try and make this game, but I'd actually wanted to take a lot of the political economy that I did in school and, you know, just some general thoughts that I had about how you could take some of the stuff that you'd see inside of like Crusader Kings or whatever, and put that into a game effectively where you're sort of a campaign manager, and how there's some specific ideas that I had where like you just simply would not be able to go in and micromanage every local office, because that's obviously not what like a David Axelrod would do. But I actually, as part of the research for that, I did actually turn out, I did find that this is an actual company. I have no idea if any of these games are any good. I'd actually kind of like to try them. But I was, because most of the time when elections show up in video games, they tend to be ones that, like, they're more parodies, or they're not really about elections. They're more a vehicle, they're a fantasy for a different set of mechanics. And I'd definitely be interested in doing something a little bit more, grognardy, which is totally inappropriate because grognard is obviously in reference to war games, but the sort of thing that would appeal to someone like that. But in the case of elections, his name's Codester. He likes to do a lot of different stuff on YouTube. He's been doing some Minecraft stuff as of late, as well as Farming Simulator. I really want to do some more Farming Simulator. I got that on Epic a million years ago. But no, that's cool. Yeah, no, I definitely like being able to talk about that. The biggest thing is that, if you're someone who is open to that, like, I like watching stuff too. I don't get a chance to watch a lot of channels. So if there's somebody who is, fun to watch, or somebody that's just nice to kind of put on in the background, because I got a bunch of like work that I need to do after I'm done this stream, I'll happily check them out, because I'm gonna want to enjoy stuff myself. But yeah, I try not to be like, I've never thought it's good. There's definitely people who go the wrong way in terms of the like name dropping or self promotion or whatever. And again, I won't focus on those ones, but I think if anything, the pendulum swung the other way, which is, there's a bunch of people who kind of want to pretend that other broadcasters don't exist. And it's like, I'm not the reason people are coming to Twitch. People are coming to Twitch for something else. And there's a small subset of people who wind up seeing my stuff. And, some of them like it, some of them don't. Probably they'd like it more if I wouldn't go on monologues like these. So I'm very much the beneficiary of an environment that does allow for discovery. And if I pretend that that isn't something that happens and that it's a good thing, I really have no business kind of laying any kind of claim to what I've already got. I'm sure it would be different if I'd like built a website all on my own, and I don't know, somebody was like piping into that and they were getting the ad revenue or that. Yeah, I'd be mad about that, but I definitely don't mind people talking about what they're interested in. But that's cool that you moderate for them. Actually, that's incidentally a situation where I sort of found Kodiak Samurai. I guess Kodiak Samurai is the one who found me. But yeah, other than all the work stuff, Kodiak Samurai, I'm feeling all right. I don't know if I ever wound up telling you, I did get an offer for Ubisoft, although I ultimately turned it down. Anyways, Stellar Expansion, Starbase Capacity +2. Our future lies in a sea of stars. That doesn't mean I'm done looking, though. There's a couple of interesting opportunities that popped up. Still don't know about the planetary capital. So this thing will take 32 months as opposed to the 90. You know what? I'll give it a shot. And we've got a railgun. The latest in electromagnetic accelerators, railguns use twin parallel rails to fire projectiles at incredible speeds. Yeah, so there was one unexpected element to it, which is I did not realize that part of the pay structure was a very large bonus at the end of the year. So the base salary is actually quite a bit lower than what I'm... Well, it's quite, yeah, no, I think it's fair to say it's quite a bit lower than what I'm normally getting. And the fact of the matter is I'm still paying down some debt. I've got a really brutal... so there's two ways in which I'm paying down debt. One, which is the actual like amount on a credit line, because I worked in film before I went to school. I had a bunch of like retirement savings set aside, and at least in Canada, you are able to draw from that in what's known as the lifelong learning plan. So like basically it's like an IRA is probably the equivalent to what I have, and you can draw on that for education. And so as a result, I wasn't able to get student loans, despite the fact that, well, yes, I could do that for tuition. It wasn't necessarily going to be enough to cover my living costs. But long story short, I mean, I did work for a bank for a little while. I've got a very good rate on my credit line. It's one where like my bank, I have like a regular banker, like they always try to talk me into something else, and then they obviously I'm not like a major client, so of course they're not going to remember it. But I was just like, well, can you do better than that rate? It's like, well, what's your rate at? It's like, oh no, there's no way we can do better than that. But yeah, anyways, so like my financing costs are not catastrophic, but the fact of the matter is that I took out a lot of a debt to pay for school. I did get scholarships. There was financial assistance. That's not to deny that, but I definitely didn't cover everything that I needed. And in fact, near the end, I actually wound up kind of juggling those balance transfer offers that credit card companies give you. And I miscalculated. I actually wound up for a while in a point where I couldn't move it off of a credit card. So I was paying like 22% interest on some of those loans. So I've worked out some really brutal budgets for myself, but I think by July of next year, I can eliminate the debt. And at that point, I just sort of start paying back for myself the amounts that of my personal savings that I sort of demolished. And that's not just like the formal lifelong learning thing. It's like the money that I had saved up, kind of life savings. I can start sort of rebuilding that. But given the fact that I've got, like, I'm now at the light at the end of the tunnel sort of a thing. Seeing my kind of take home on a given day kind of get guillotined would create quite a bit of disruption to that plan. And this is, of course, before we really started talking about, kind of people starting to wonder about when interest rates are going to be going up. So now is not a bad time for me to like kill any debts that I'm paying. But on top of that, I would have been starting around this time or within a week, let's say. And I suspect I'm probably not going to see the bonus then. What I'm likely going to have to do is wait sort of the full year plus a bit before I get to see that big payday. And as a result, again, if I've got this plan in place for trying to, get myself into a better financial position, that's not necessarily going to be, that's not going to be the best. So it's not great because, part of my dissatisfaction with this job is the fact that, it's clear that I took one for financial reasons, but they are tremendously underutilizing me. And I'm not crazy about the fact that I've sort of stayed at the job that's not really serving me very well for those financial reasons. But I was also pleasantly surprised at how quickly alternatives presented themselves. So it seemed the more prudent of the options instead of just taking the first thing that kind of came by. I just kind of get to see the pitches swing by. I'm still putting out resumes and such. And the fact of the matter is that I definitely let my employer know that I had my options and I was considering them. And I think that has translated into a little bit more of a pathway to moving up. I think they're dragging their feet, and frankly, I don't think I owe them any loyalty on that regard. If a better opportunity comes up, I'm out. But the Ubisoft offer was a good one, which would not have been the best fit for me right now. And part of the game looking forward is to get myself in a point where if I were to get the same offer from Ubisoft again, I'd just say, sure, why not? I'll just, I'll buy fewer books, I'll wait for the big bonus day, and then just go nuts. So yeah, the other thing too is that like the position I'm in, there are some features, like especially around like the retirement savings and stuff like that, and like pensions. My job is somewhat notorious for being pretty good for that. So, but yeah, I mean, as you say, like it's not a bad time to, to see if you can get a good opportunity. And I certainly have my eyes out. Also, I apologize, Senior Q. I kind of responded to Kodiak Samurai, but not you. So college is just so expensive here in the States. The college you go to costs about 40 to 50K a semester. You're lucky so far as you find really good scholarships and you have family helping you out where you can. That's really good. I'm not one of these people who thinks that just because it's hard for, just because someone found it hard doesn't mean that everybody else should go through a tough time. But I think it's worth it. I would not trade going to university at all. If anything, I really wish I did the PhD. Obviously financially that was... well, I found out after the fact that apparently, like, you should be getting paid. Like, it should be like a job. So... I wasn't 100% clear in terms of what the financial arrangements would be like to pursue a PhD, so that's on me for not checking that out. I kind of just assumed that it would be like the masters again, but yeah, I mean, I'm in the situation I'm in right now, and it's not a bad one. I certainly got through COVID fine, and it's just a question of making sure that... The biggest thing for me right now is I just want to make sure that I keep sharp so that if I do have an opportunity where it's like a good job that expects me to perform, I want to be able to perform. Like, I don't want to sort of wake up and discover that all my econometric ability is sort of vanished because it's been underutilized. Okay, so I'm sorry, I've been trying to filibuster while I pick between Corvette hull points and engineering. Let's go for the hull points. They're reasonably cheap. Doing better on the Empire Sprawl, too. I'm assuming that means we've grown into our admin jobs. Yes. Now, this is a bit of a worry, right? Because the growth that we experience now creates unemployment. However, we've got 12 plus my new habitat, which is still building its job. So in this case, we just wind up moving workers between different habitats. So that's not that big of a deal, but still, the real goal is just to get my alloys back up, and that's got to be the base level. But yeah, so we're gonna continue. Actually, I can get another destroyer there. How's the war going? Okay, so looks like the bad guys are... Oh, Jesus. Yeah, it looks like these guys are actually getting their ass kicked. Yeah, they're down to Superior. Interesting. Okay, so the way I'm going to play this, I'm going to beef up my military. I don't think we're going to be ready... I don't think we're going to be ready in time, but if these guys get decimated, I definitely... Yeah, okay, they're back to overwhelming. But yeah, I definitely... Okay, I definitely want to make sure that if the opportunity arises, I want to be able to bite off the parts that I need. Hope your channel grows, but it keeps a good small channel feeling. Chill place just to go and listen and talk. Yeah, Senior Q. I mean, now, for some people, it's just a question of, is it the YouTube channel or is it the Twitch channel? It's kind of nice now that there's more than one and there's different audiences for each one. I'm actually smaller than I used to be, so I didn't necessarily... I've been able to maintain this kind of feeling with a larger audience before. But I also have never necessarily felt that growth... it's not growth at any cost. I don't make a living doing this. And I'm consistent enough, and I've been able to meet a lot of interesting people doing this, and I certainly, it's hard to feel unappreciated based on some of the comments and some of the behind the scenes stuff that's happened. So it's growth is always nice. It is a nice little sort of signal that everybody wants to have their stuff be appreciated, for sure. But it's really hard for me to turn around and say, it's like, oh, okay, well, I like that, all of you like the channel, but what I really want is all of you times 1,000,000, and then I'll be happy. That's always going to be a goal. I'm sure I could have something like ninja numbers, and I'd still want the channel to keep growing. And I'll be honest with you, I've known a couple of people who do it for a living, and one definitely developed a level of entitlement. I met them in a bar. I got along with them very well. But I definitely, after a while, started to feel like I was kind of being taken for granted, particularly as a mod for them, because I never really asked to be a mod. And I don't really talk to them anymore, which is, why I'm kind of keeping it to myself as to who this is. And there's some people who have become partner or do it for a living that are absolute kind of sweethearts, and I like being able to talk with them. And there's a lot of smaller broadcasters who were really positive and really fun to watch, and then I think they got kind of a little stressed out about how long it's been and not seeing the growth that they wanted, and it became the only thing that they talked about on stream. And that was really unpleasant to watch. I think they just eventually kind of deleted their channel, which is a shame to see, right? And I mean, in the end, we have a finite amount of time, both, in a day, but also in our lives. You don't want to spend your time doing something that doesn't make you happy. The number thing I've always, as far as I can, I've tried to use it as a guideline as opposed to a goal, because in the end, there was some stuff that happened in Vancouver that made me realize just how appreciated I am by certain people, and that is something that is very easy to overlook when it comes down to a viewership number. One of the I'm very lucky on YouTube, actually, is a number of people who come out and say, it's look, I don't normally comment on YouTube stuff, but I just want to let you know I've really been enjoying, and they'll mention the thing that I've been doing, and it's a wonderful reminder that the majority of people who are watching my stuff probably, they've got other options, they're watching it because they like it. And that only a small number of them are ever really going to communicate that. So, Twitch and Twitter and Facebook, all kind of various forms of social media have a vested interest in kind of making you feel, for lack of a better term, inadequate. You need more engagement, because that's how they sell their product. But you don't necessarily have to play their game, right? You can enjoy the experience of sharing a game with someone, and whether you're doing that on the couch with a friend or whether you're doing that with strangers on the internet, you're able to, you determine the level of engagement. Yeah, you're right. Actually, that could just be purely a function of the fact that the war's been going on for a while with them. Okay, the alien barracks. The silhouettes discernible from orbit are indeed buildings, and closer inspection reveal them to be of an obvious martial nature. Well, abandoned for some time, though very recently on a galactic timescale, Science Officer Axamekat believes that the secrets of alien tactics may yet be exhumed from beneath the dust that covers the decaying barracks and looted armories. A special project may be issued to study the remains. I was just thinking about the fact that Stellaris refers to martial things quite a bit. And of course, in a space game, the term martial has a slightly different connotation. Like I get what they mean, right? It's you could have used it as militaristic, but I just kind of love the idea of the fact that this probably is not intentional too, but the idea that we still call things martial in space. Anyways,
Log updated.
They become more experienced, but with the experience, as their experience has gone up, has come on an increasing stubbornness. Scientists become quite obdurate, and is having difficulty accepting new ideas. I'll be really interested if this stays at Superior. I'm also curious if they're... Okay, yeah, they still have an ambassador harming relations with us. My hope is, over time, that they're going to find other things to worry about.
Research complete.
One of the biggest arguments for wanting to find more species is actually so that we can be not important enough for them to try and ruin relations with. Yeah. Alien Barracks. Science Officer Axametkat's thorough xenohistorical analysis of the military installation on Oxyman 4 has yielded a few tangible results. The base was constructed before the planet turned completely barren, but it is unclear if its current inhospitability is the result of armed conflict or more peaceful or even natural processes. What can be deduced of their strategies and tactics in armed conflict does not seem to have been far in advance of our own. On the upside, Science Officer Axametkat claims to have drawn much inspiration from the alien remnants. So even though they have become stubborn, they do now have the military theory trait. Yeah, we're still building up our infiltration level. Although now wouldn't be a bad time to acquire an asset, I think. So we can tempt or coerce operatives and other assets who would be of use to our intelligence operations, recruiting them for a price. So we've got the money for it. And grinding lattice. Achenar 3A is crisscrossed by overlapping mineral composite bands that are elevated above the harsh surface by tall, flexible pylons. Constantly agitated by atmospheric winds, these pylons sway and the overlapping bands rub together to produce sonic waves that at what are, to Raxarai, inaudible frequencies. Science Officer Klanderax reports some difficulty in isolating this audio from the natural background noise of the planet, but notes that the mineral bands could, should we so choose, be broken down and efficiently recycled by the Natraxian rum runners.
Resource scan complete.
By chance, we stumbled upon a faint alien signal during the survey of this moon. The source appears to be a small object in orbit. The signal contains no message. Could it be a distress transponder? I know I've been on a bit of a tear for off-topic conversations, but I'm curious, among the data mavens in the channel, has anybody worked with Spark and particularly along the lines of either setting up or administering a Spark cluster, because I've been playing around with this. Okay, so I've actually, one thing that's really nice, this is just personal life stuff while I'm running through the details. Well, I'll get this detail out of the way, and then I'll read the event. Stellaris always throws up an event right around the time I want to talk about something. I've more or less got a small cluster running, save for the fact that when I send one of the example jobs to the Spark cluster... So first of all, for those of you not familiar with Spark, I apologize. This will just be complete gibberish. And everything kind of seems to be working, save for the fact when I send this sample job, I kind of wind up in this eternal loop of allocating resources to the job, which basically says to me, based on, some Stack Overflow, some, reading manuals, that essentially what's happening is that the resources aren't available, or at least are not being seen as being available. Now, given the fact that nothing else is running on these machines, and in fact, nothing else can be running on those machines, clearly those resources are available. It's just a matter of telling things where to look. But my Googling has started to come up short. But I don't know. I don't know if anybody here is. I don't know quite the level of nerdery, and there's definitely some really cool nerds in the channel. Actually, sorry. I think it's you just going to talk. We're going to talk about Keynesianism, and something else came up. So if you're still around, I'm happy to mention a small anecdote on it if you're interested. But yeah, no, there's a lot of very cool nerds in the channel. But obviously, that's a particularly narrow set of skills. Ancient Life Pod. An abandoned life pod was detected in close orbit of Tinnik 2A. It was covered in scorch marks, presumably from when the pod's mothership exploded, and preliminary scans suggest it was built more than 5,000 years ago. The crew of the ISS Irid Sac managed to open the pod, revealing the withered remains of a reptilian alien clad in a resplendent uniform. Clutched in one of its claws was a small picture of another individual from the same race, possibly a mate or a revered leader. Or possibly both. Let's work out the backstory on that one.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
How far away are we from...
Prospect analyzed.
It's like almost 4 years. So most of this stuff is gravy. I do kind of want to get an idea of the limits of the galaxy. It might be that this is kind of something that we've almost... Like, we haven't exactly locked it up for ourselves, but might be an easy one for us to lock up. This is pure exploration over here, and then here we're just kind of trying to get an idea of the limits. If we were to expand out, I'd kind of be interested in seeing how far it actually goes. I feel like so many movies could be made based on the events of Stellaris. Hollywood should take note. Well, that's, the really great thing about... again, for the framing, and I apologize, it sometimes gets tedious to hear the same comments over and over again, but to me, the thing that keeps bringing me back to Stellaris and the framing that I put around it to really make it make sense to me is just this wonderful canvas in which you can tell whatever science fiction story you want. And particularly with so much of it being, if you want to see a science fiction property you really enjoy for yourself, will still, Paradox doesn't have to pay for the rights, but you can realize that, that environment on your own, without too much effort inside of the game. But it's also really fun to just kind of cut loose and tell your own stories. And it's, part of it is sort of a testament to the special events in that come up. I think This is one of the things that I always bristle at a little bit whenever a new story pack comes out. Because I feel like, I mean, it makes sense, right? If you've got something big that adds a lot of game mechanics, people are really going to obviously, it's not very ambiguous in terms of where the headline is for that. But I mean, the one that's really big for me is, first of all, Leviathan's, the first DLC was a story pack, and in that story pack we got the Horizon Signal, which is almost certainly going to be the thing. Like, if someone's experienced the Horizon Signal, they're going to talk about it. It's one of the most reliable ways of getting people really excited about Stellaris. Excuse me. But the other big thing for me is just, having more story pack events. Like, the context of these events are always going to be different. And so, there are definitely, so there's some times where it's just, the galaxy's a big place and weird stuff happens and you're like, okay, that was neat. I had a couple of paragraphs and that's where it ends. But sometimes there's going to be an event that happens at just the right moment where you get this nice little bit of an emergent narrative that comes up, and you can decide to hook into that if you like. And to me, that's one of the great strengths of Stellaris, almost a unique strength of Stellaris. I know this sometimes happens in the case of Crusader Kings, but again, Crusader Kings is going to be pinned to history, at least in its starting conditions. Whereas Stellaris, you probably have the widest set of options. You kind of have the most control over just about everything in terms of setting up your game and how you decide to respond to certain events. And so to me, that's where, plus I think science fiction is just inherently interesting. But I sometimes feel like that's where some of the real storytelling power can come in. Yeah, a lot of Star Trek references. There's some wonderful Hitchhikers references. I didn't realize until I started trying to do some modding that there is actually a towel icon, although I noticed that it's been used in a couple of events, so I think I just wasn't paying attention. The other thing, too, is there's some really deep cuts as far as some science fiction references as well, which is kind of neat. Okay, Ruined Ring World. Ruined Ring World. I apologize for the pronunciation on the stream. The shattered remnants of an ancient ring world encircle the star of the Tharum system. Any planetary bodies that may once have existed here must have been used as building material during this megastructure's construction. No evidence hinting towards who originally built this marvel of engineering has been found, but it must have been the product of a very advanced culture. So, not in our immediate...
This tech had better generate some revenue.
Not in our immediate control, but certainly something that's worth expanding the borders for if we get to a certain level. Global energy management. Load balancing facilities can greatly improve the stability of local grids and feed excess power back into centralized capacitors. So here... I can't remember if we get more research from our stations or our job. Yeah, our jobs are really the ones that are...
Resource scan complete.
Initial imaging of the ruined Tharum ring world indicates a number of intact vats located on some of the dilapidated sections. Whatever these vats might hold is unknown. It's kind of expensive, but... And we have discovered an archaeological site in Akamar, which is quite a way away, so I don't think we're going to worry about that.
Prospect analyzed.
Got a couple of months to run by, and then
Prospect analyzed.
Numbers can go down. Incoming transmission. The Fronds of Gold. Baneth nutritional slurry is not people. The ingredients are secret and very healthy. Show us your wares. We offer you a Trium brand atmospheric deodorizer. Do your agri-world smell like fertilizer? Is your Ecumenopolis more of a yuck, ew, no please? Does your colony stink? We have the solution. Our patented blend of microbes and aerosol reagents will clear the air of any habitable troposphere. Just sit back, relax, deploy the stratodrones, and enjoy a breath of fresh air. All this for the low, low price of one science ship, excluding the crew. No, we don't need them. A one-time delivery to a single colony only. Anti-odor effects are guaranteed to last 80 years and no longer. Increases immigration pull by 30% and pop growth from immigration by 10% for the duration. Triumph Atmospheric Deodorizer brand name, and you think that's air you're breathing now? Slogan copyright 2200 Vengralian Triumph. All rights reserved. Not interested. Move along. Speaking of my colony, not quite at the point where we can make a decision. Carabineers local franchise. An urgent message from Kirox's private stash explains that a number of now former members of the Vengralian Tirum seek political asylum on the planet. The local administration has seen fit to pass the decision on to of what to do to them up the chain of command. So all may contribute. Yes, we definitely need pops. Can we make them slaves? Yep, looks like they are slaves. So that would suggest to me we should send them to Ducarex. Brilliant. Although they don't produce as much as the other regions. Sorry, I say regions. They don't produce as much as my own species. Okay, that was more or less by design, so they expanded out, and I'll get my science ship back. Yep. Sorry, wrong one. Actually, probably better just to take the species list. So they're arid preference, which doesn't mean anything for me right now. Rapid breeders, resilient, and deviant. I can mess around a little bit with the, they got decent conditions. I mean, maybe like battle thralls at some point, because they are resilient, but I don't. I think just leaving them as standard slaves is enough. Okay, we can build a new ship, so we wanted one more destroyer before we started filling up. Yeah, so we did 5 and 20 for the other one. Operative defects. Our spymaster in the Lox Ungrak Va Royal States, Flexerod, reports a drastic failure in her process for screening operatives. Word from the Lox Ungrak Van capital is that the informant has chosen to defect. It seems that the informant has grown more sympathetic towards the culture and founding ethics of the Lox Ungrak Va Royal States in opposition to our own. Our screening process has failed in that it is supposed to rule out such flakiness. So we can lose 20 influence. If the Lox Ungrak Va Royal States have a spy network on us, they will be warned of a plot against them. They may identify us if their code breaking is superior to our encryption. Get your house in order, Vrexelrod. 50% chance that they will be informed. And we see a reduction. I think disavow is the right option here. Again, we're avoiding the We're avoiding the altercations. I believe it does, but it's just a question in terms of where I currently am using them. So, where was it?
Boom! I found something!
Wait, sorry, civics. So that would be under here. So it allows the decadent lifestyle. No, sorry, my apologies. In this case, the existence of slaves. No, so it's just the amenities that we get. So basically, here's the logic behind the choice here. And again, like I haven't like sat down and really worked out all of the details here. These workers are happy enough, 82, but compare that to I think the scientists, because it's not proper work, so that's a 92. So kind of the idea here is to try and shift more of more of my base pops into the jobs where they'll have maximum happiness. The alternative would be I think it would be under species, so set rights. So domestic servants that are not holding another job will be employed as servants, increases the amenities. They cannot perform ruler or specialist jobs, with the sole exception of working as entertainers. Oh, okay, actually, so... But then they still wouldn't count as servants. They would work as entertainers. But yeah, so like basically the reality of my situation right now is that I want as many bodies in the Empire as possible working those slots. There will come a point where my population growth is getting to a level where I have some surplus. And at that point, I might be willing to switch it over to domestic servitude, because that means that there's more jobs, there's more sort of opportunities to reap the benefits. But on the particular the world in question, we're already at 20 amenities. And while, yes, there's always other ways to make our species happy, in this particular case here, I'm trying to max out these mining stations, because the more stations that I get to fill up the other habitats. Sorry, I should call them habitats, not stations. Basically, the more bodies in the habitats, the more I can start pushing that out to other locations, and that'll mean I get more people on the administratives. So. But part of it too is just to get over my usual tendency as well, which was when I first played Stellaris, if I had a trait, I would automatically try and take advantage of it right away.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
And it's not necessarily bad. If nothing else, you just get a chance to learn and to do fun stuff on some of the others. Excellent.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
I can finally start establishing some branch offices. Let me just see, can I get any deeper in the... God bless our spy. Well, that or possibly my my spy network. I'm loving this, by the way. Oh, wait, nope. Sorry, that's the wrong side. So I think there might be getting the upper hand now. Yeah, 48 to 48, so that war's starting to turn. But yeah, so we got some options to start causing trouble. Okay, establishing a new branch office on Lox Ungarak will cost us 1,400 energy and 70 70 influence. It's expected to generate monthly income of 29.4 based on the current trade value, and crime of the planet. It will also increase our empire sprawl. So that sucks, but I want to set up as many of these as I can. And what can we build? So bioreprocessing, concealed drug labs, illicit research, pirate free haven. I'm pretty sure I'm good for naval cap. So I'm partially... I'm somewhat inclined towards the concealed drug labs just because that means that fewer of my bases need to be occupied with that. But the thing is that that's kind of the default option for most of my... most of my worlds anyway. So the wrecking yards might be... Yeah, it's a tough call, actually. Let's start with a concealed drug lab. And we'll see where... We'll see where things take us. I'm also going to just try and expand to as many worlds as I can. I know that's going to be really costly and across pretty much every dimension, but we've got the money for it. It's really just the question of the other factors. And I think here I'm actually a little inclined towards research. So this is definitely not going to pay for itself, but again, we're just able to... We're able to expand a bit. Oh, they can use the expropriation casus belli. Okay, so I've given them a reason to... Given them another reason to fight a war.
Boom! I found something.
Our sensors indicate odd irregularities in Vega A's energy emission pattern. I will expand. I will expand these a little bit faster. Sorry, I'll expand these when I can, but right now I want to. I just want to start with one building. That might give me a better idea in terms of where my consumer goods are at. Okay, decisions-wise, we should be able to turn it into the Gaia world. Yeah, here we go. So new Baal life seeding turns the planet into a Gaia world by deploying gene-tailored plant life injected with the unique Baal ability of organic terraforming. Baal life seeding on Grunner Prime complete. Our environmental specialists are pleased to report that the terraforming process on Grunner Prime is completed. The planet has been successfully transformed into a Gaia world, owing to our deployment of laboratory-created plant hybrids containing carefully selected segments from the Baal genetic code. Once again, as a result of this process, the process itself not quite fully understood by our geneticists, a number of new Baal populations have appeared planetside, emerging when terraforming neared completion. So we suppose we shall have to deal with them. Excellent, more slaves, or incredible. I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to have them as slaves. Yeah, why not? So let's see what the deal is with them.
Boom! We built something.
Okay, so they are phototropic, replaces 50% of base food upkeep with energy upkeep. They have a liter lifespan of 80 years, but they're slaves, so that's not going to matter. Agrarian, which is good. Delicious. Communal and slow breeders. Okay. So yeah, it's actually not bad that we made them slaves. Okay, it's terrible that we made them slaves, but it's not bad, like, mechanics-wise that they're slaves. Oh, but we can't build agriculture districts. Well, that doesn't help us. How unusual. Or no, it's not unusual because it's a former tomb world. Okay, well, let's think about... You know, that doesn't really help me now that I think of it. Okay. I may change their status based on the world, but I think in general, when I take these other planets... the reason that wouldn't work would be their Gaia world preference. Okay, I'll work with that template for now. Actually, I should maybe just double check. I could be misunderstanding how the Gaia world preference works, but... Oh, so it's just 70%. Okay. But I only have... So the farmer slots are... 2 per habitat, I believe. Oh, there's none on there. 3 farmer jobs. Okay. Then yes, I wasn't actually going to entertain... I wasn't going to entertain a swap, but that actually helps me quite a bit. You know what, there's not a great way for me to do this, but... This is actually the one case where the Nubal don't really have a place on the new Gaia world. Okay. So Faradex, I think, is the only other one with a farm. Does it make sense? No, I think I'll just leave the rest. There is a perfectly reasonable question is saying, is like, well, do I really want that much unemployment on this planet? I think I'm going to be able to build in the city districts before too long, so I'll let that naturally sort itself out. Star patterns. The latest sensory readings from Vega A showed the star pulsing regularly, but with the crew at the ISS Irid Gra arrived on the site, there was no evidence to support this data. While most of the crew are in agreement that the anomaly was caused by a sensory malfunction, Science Officer Klandrax discards this theory. Klandrax claims to have discovered similar pulsating energy emission patterns elsewhere, and now fears that something strange is happening in the galaxy's stars. They have charted the course to the nearest affected star.
Log updated.
Okay, so... Is that this unit? Clones in cryostasis. The murky vats located deep within the ruined storage sections of the Thandaram ring world contain thousands of alien creatures in cryostasis. Some are still living, while many thousands more appear to have suffered cryochamber malfunctions, leaving them as organic sludge in varying stages of decomposition. Remarkably, all of the aliens are completely identical. Analysis of these remnants reveals them to be genetic clones. Science Officer Axamekkat suggests that we could attempt to thaw out the living clones, though as the ring world is currently without life support. Sorry, let me try that again. Remarkably, all of the aliens are completely identical. Analysis of their remains reveals them to be genetic clones. Science Officer Axamekkat suggests that we could attempt to thaw out the living clones, though as their ring world is currently without life support, we would have to give them a place to live. So thaw them out. This is exciting. It would be unwise to interfere or study them from afar, or it's a pity we have no room for them. Thaw them out. This is exciting. It's going to be getting a little crowded up there, but... yeah, so we're falling behind on the food. We received some rather troubling reports regarding the deteriorating health of scientist Klandrax. His haggard appearance makes him look as though he's aged nearly 20 years. The burden of duty can be a heavy thing to bear.
Research complete. We did it.
Chronic clones revised. Science Officer Axamekkat is pleased to report that, barring a small number of unsalvageable cases, the revival of the derelict Ringworld clones from cryostasis has been a success. The clones are quite docile individuals who appear to know nothing of the circumstances behind their creation. Axamekkat speculates that they were used as laborers by whatever ancient civilization constructed the Tharam Ringworld. The clones appear to be willing to follow orders, though Axamekkat cautions that preliminary neuroresonance scanning suggests that they are not the best equipped to deal with complex tasks. And Faradex. Oh, the generator station. Okay. So where did they wind up? Oh, they're farmers. That works. Just as long as we keep things open for, the main species to continue to flourish. And just imagine living in a space station, and then all of a sudden, you have at least a third of your population turn into a different species. That would blow your mind. I mean, I suppose you can make an analogy to certain immigration patterns right now, but yes, overnight would be a bit of a weird one. Man, they really want me to build that other... So, you know, maybe a concealed drug lab is the right call there.
Technology acquired.
Alright, advances in building techniques allow for the construction of sturdier and more durable corvettes. So... I have kicked the can down the road on this for so long.
Prospect analyzed.
I think I am finally going to do zero-G refineries. And do we have a specialist for that? We do not. Do we have my science ship back? We do! And we've got a free... We got a free scientist. So this is going to be one that I put on automatic. So, hey, Night Valian, how you doing? Concealed Drug Lab, you thought the Canadian folks had dispensaries. We got more drugs than just cannabis in Canada, Night Valian. How you doing? For those of you who don't know him, Night Valian is a very friendly, soft-voiced Brazilian streamer who occasionally gets to see me harass Uncle Cranky as well as a few other broadcasters online, but he has been doing Breath of Fire. So it turns out there's a lot of games in that series, but he is currently on to Breath of Fire 4. It's been a lot of fun to watch him play it, especially because I'm actually starting to remember the name of the series properly. Yeah, Night Valian is definitely someone who I've felt quite happy that I've gotten a chance to to get to know him a little bit better, to see his broadcast. He puts a lot of work into his broadcast. Not all of that is necessarily realized on the screen because some of it is still sort of in progress. But whenever I get in touch with him, I'm always hearing about something that he's doing which is relating to his broadcast, whether he's thinking about a new game or whether he's thinking about doing emotes. Definitely somebody who puts a lot of effort into his broadcasts, and I'm sure quite a few of you will appreciate that. So for those of you that haven't checked him out yet, definitely somebody to check out, although he's definitely much more along the lines of sort of the indie stuff that I do. And I think when a few of the games that I like are out of early access or they come to Steam, he'll probably wind up playing a few of them. So some examples I'm thinking of here would be things like Phantom Brigade or Industries of Titan. But definitely somebody I think who's worthy of your time. You'll petition Capcom to change the name to Dragon's Breath and confuse me forever? It's not that hard to get me confused. All right, I've been slacking on the Corvette, so let's start unloading some of those. I suppose it's just as well, the superior rating is still kicking around here. They are in...
Technology acquired. Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
Okay, yeah, so they're starting to fall apart. Our deep cover operatives have stepped up their surveillance on potential targets. Acknowledged. Robust frameworks for local governance created on a per-case basis to meet each colony's needs. I don't know if this will help me out on my habitats, but this will definitely help me out now that I'm working on planets. A lot of expensive techs here. Let's do pop growth speed. And actually, my apologies. I know Night Valian just stopped by, but I have been trying to let various algorithms dictate my life. So in this particular case, if you don't mind, I am going to take a quick minute to get up and stretch and refill my water and all those other lovely things. I am going to run ads because it happens to fit really nicely within my 1 minute to get up and stretch. But if you have an ad blocker, now is the time to turn it on. But I will be back. I'll try to make it no longer than a minute or two, and then we'll be back for Stellaris for the rest of the night. Okay. My apologies to those of you hit by the ads. Or otherwise, who didn't get a chance to get up and stretch. I will actually share as a brief note on the limits of self-improvement. So I played around with the Apple Fitness Plus app, which I'm actually grateful for the existence of, because it definitely helps to have little nudges. And I don't know, like, I wanted to take, I'm not particularly unfit. I think this has its origins in the Canadian military, actually. So, if you're posted somewhere, in the Arctic, you're not necessarily gonna have the easiest time getting exercise. Like, you're not gonna be able to just like go out and run, in like -40. So there's kind of like this basic little routine. I think I saw it in like a New York Times article at some point too, where it's just a set of really basic things that you can do to just kind of get the blood moving and generally just remind your body that you're not dead. So I used to do that somewhat regularly, and then I've actually discovered that on average, like just through my day-to-day, like if I'm going out or like getting groceries or just generally I like walking, I find that on like a given day I'll walk anywhere between 4 to 10 kilometers, which didn't really seem like that much until I actually sat down and quantified it. But with all of that in mind, like I've never had a good idea in terms of like what a fitness routine looks like, or like the sort of things I should be doing. I am ridiculously skinny, and I've always been skinny. And so if I were to have a set of weights, the best I have are some Indian clubs for something unrelated. But even if I had weights, I'm not entirely sure what I would do with them. Beyond just like picking up heavy things and putting them down again. So I thought, okay, well, Apple has now provided these nice high production value videos for me. And I'm pretty sure the nice lady in that video, so I tried one of these this morning. I'm pretty sure the nice lady in the video tried to kill me this morning, but I I got a workout. But yeah, regrettably, I don't have any Thanksgiving leftovers to run around with because Canadian. So that was if I have month-old leftovers, I'm probably not enjoying them. But let's carry on with
anomaly found. Hey, can we monetize this?
By chance, we stumbled upon a faint alien signal during the survey of this moon. The source appeared to be a small object in orbit. The signal contains no message. Could it be a distress transponder? I really want to be expanding, but we've already, with our branches, we've already started blasting past the Empire Sprawl limit. In fact, I would be using those alloys to, augment my my habitats, save for the fact that my, my Navy needs a facelift. Spymaster Frexlod recently launched a quiet investigation into her own operatives in the Loxongrak Royal States after noticing a recent drop in their performance. She's discovered these operatives skimming from resource allocated to intelligence gathering and bribes. These goods and currencies are being reinvested elsewhere in the Loxongrak Van business concerns, earning the operatives a comfortable profit at our expense. As a result, their attention and loyalties have clearly become divided. Progress on Operation Acquire Asset has been put on hold for the moment until Spymaster Frexlod can reassess operational efficiency. So this cannot be tolerated. Issue reprimands, dispose of these operatives, or this could give us an interesting edge. Enterprising Spy Network modifier added for 2 years. Oh god, yeah, we're using that. You miss the physical activity of going to classes and meetings off campus. Just fun and getting out to see how crazy drivers here in your home state. I don't know what your home state is, but one thing I used to do before I went to school actually was in Vancouver, there's the seawall. And I used to put on They're not really podcasts. They were like recorded lectures, but it's probably just as easy to call them a podcast. And I'd get a lot. So like I've pretty much always like walked as a recreation. Then again, I mean, like at my age, my only physical activity should not be walking. Like if I was senior, sure, you know, I could maybe justify that, but yeah, it's obviously with with work from home, there's so many more excuses for me not to do things. So walking's pretty good, though. I mean, walking doesn't require me to be in a crowded environment with a bunch of people, so haven't died yet. Mummified Pilot. The mummified remains of a single individual belonging to a previously unknown mammalian species have been found drifting in high orbit over Kibin 1A. The being is dressed in what appears to be a flight suit, complete with a helmet, and it may be a fighter pilot that ejected in some ancient battle only to be forgotten and left behind. Our study of the corpse has provided some interesting data. Well, that's no surprise. Your pitiful nation is living on borrowed time. The Atraxian rum runners will fail. It is inevitable. So we haven't actually seen the scariest ships that they've produced yet. But they're no longer actively ruining relations. So even though they're sending insults, I think they are...
Prospect analyzed.
I think they're starting to move on to bigger fish to fry. Initial sensory readings from Vega B3 suggest it could support... Sorry, Vega B3A suggests that it could support alien life. I should have been buying up those alloys. That's my bad. So I think what I'll do here, I'll split the difference. We'll load up on corvettes until we have a second full fleet. And then I think I'm going to work on another habitat.
Resource scan complete.
Single-minded. At first glance, Vega B3A seems to be inhabited by a diverse plethora of life forms. They coexisted in an ecosystem similar to our own, in which nutrients cycle the food chain through photosynthesis, decomposition, and predation. Upon closer inspection, however, the crew discovered that though all living things on Vega B3A may have started out as individuals first, they now, by mysterious design, operate as a single organism, one which responds to all outside interference with fierce and indiscriminate aggression. One of my other considerations is to... I mean, now that I've got the relic, I kind of think about what systems I want to colonize next. I'm debating about whether or not I want to try to do this. I probably will, but maybe further down the road. Oh man, we're making some beautiful crime here.
I found something.
The planetary body Gemma 2 appears to be covered in some manner of grayish substance, possessing strange properties and varying metallic composition. I might make this a more research-focused world, but I'm not 100% sure yet. Grey goo. After detailed analysis, Officer Drayden has discovered that the strange metallic substance coating the surface of Gemma 2 is in fact comprises of billions upon billions of nanites. These nanites are microscopic, self-replicating micromachines, perhaps created by a past civilization for some unknown purpose. The volume and density of this nanite sludge is remarkable, adding billions of tons of mass to the underlying planet. It would appear that these tiny self-replicators entered a state of runaway reproduction at some point in the past, engulfing the planet and everything around it. In studying the nanites, the crew have made some exciting new findings that will undoubtedly aid us in our own research. So this was a surprise. Apparently we've gained an L-gate insight out of that.
Imagine the profit margins on this tech.
I'm actually quite fond of megacorps. I've probably done too many of them lately. And I've noticed that in general my style has been to ignore Empire Sprawl, and that's what really hurt me in the past. So I'm trying to be a little bit better behaved along those lines. But of course habitats are brand new for me too. So, but a criminal syndicate for the first time. This is definitely a new experience. Rapid iteration in construction simulations determines the optimal component assembly patterns for each building project ahead of time. I also forgot to mention, so one of the reasons why I parked the science ship here was so that it would get kicked out of their borders and put into my own. So we now actually have that science ship running around. Right, we're still working on the physics research. You found out that in any game that can be played with as an RPG, you want to play as a fat and happy merchant that is quick in the tongue and smart in the wits. So I'm actually kind of curious. Do you have some examples of RPGs that you like playing that way? Because I think I actually think it's a marker of a really good RPG, a computer RPG rather, where you can do that. So like I've enjoyed playing Diablo. I do notice I kind of treat Diablo a little bit like candy. Like, it's not always the most fulfilling.
I found something!
The surface of this asteroid is littered with metallic debris. Most of it appears to originate from starships of many different designs. Like, I tend to gorge myself on Diablo, but I don't necessarily feel very fulfilled at the end of every session. But obviously Diablo is quite a bit more action-oriented, and so I couldn't imagine playing a merchant in that. But on the other hand, you know, there's others where you can you do actually have a little bit more flexibility along those lines. So I'm sort of curious. Oh, D&D, right? I was thinking more computer RPG. Obviously, tabletop you can be anything you want. But the reason I ask is that I wasn't going to talk too much about the stuff I got on the Steam sale, just because I think sometimes, I don't know, like it's nice to not talk about always buying new stuff. You know, particularly if I'm saving for a bunch of stuff, right? So it's sometimes a little, you know, it's not always in line with my long-term financial goals when everybody's talking about all the cool stuff that they got, and I'm sort of feeling like I'm living as some proto-ascetic. But I did pick up Conquest of Elysium 5 because I've got a gift card, which is actually, it's not expiring soon, but it's one of these like Visa gift cards where they start charging you like $1 every month to own it. And I'd rather the money go to me than some, you know, financial services provider. So I got that and Slipways. But I was really struck by just how different all the different classes are in Conquest of Elysium. So that was why I was a little curious about your I was a little curious about your RPG preferences for that playstyle. A short list of targets has been drawn up. Those operatives who are no longer tasked with surveillance will provide cover for the others. I'm actually pretty rotten at tabletop role-playing, just because even online, just being able to get everybody together for a session is not always the easiest task. Junkyard. The asteroid was... This asteroid was evidently used as a junkyard by someone at some point in the distant past. All manner of discarded machinery and metallic refuse has been deposited inside the asteroid's weak gravity well, being slowly pulled into the jumble of debris that now covers the surface. There's nothing of particular value to be found here, but a lot of the metal could be salvaged by a mining station. Nothing really computer-based. You love card games and board games that can support that kind of playstyle. Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't really think there were a lot of board games that would do that, but I'm also kind of limited. Like, a lot of the board games that I've been checking out have been more the sort of stuff that GMT produces. So if you're not familiar with GMT, probably one of their more famous titles is Twilight Struggle, which is available as a digital board game. I think that's like 50% off on, I don't know if it's on Humble, but I know it's on Steam. But they're the modern equivalent of the sort of stuff that you would have seen around the 70s. So I think Dungeons and Dragons has its origins in a game called Chainmail, and they would have been making that kind of stuff. But a lot of the old board games from that time don't exist anymore. So I think like SPI was an example of one. And I think GMT actually did Kickstarter before like Kickstarter was a thing. They had like Project 500, and essentially they got past the risk of... So like one of the challenges a board game manufacturer is going to have is that you spend all your money up front to make a board game, and you make it your best guess in terms of what people want. But once you put all that money into producing your board game, if you were wrong in that assumption, like all of that money is in a product that's like worse than useless. Like at the very least, if you haven't put a map on the cardboard, that at least has some value to someone. But like once you actually have a printed board and some especially like customized dice or something like that, it's really hard to get any kind of a return. So GMT produces some great stuff, but it's one of the ways that they've been able to sort of stay viable. I mean, one, there's a bit of a board game renaissance going on, obviously, and there has been for a while. But on top of that, they are quite strict in establishing sort of consumer demand for any given game that they're thinking of publishing. And essentially, if it hasn't been demonstrated through things like the pre-orders or the Project 500, I don't think they make it. So, you were going to be a smart aleck, bag of holding one of your friends who's a dungeon master. I'm sorry to hear about the medical lead. You're supposed to help him so you didn't have to act out so many characters. Yeah, that's the other drawback for me in playing role-playing games, is that I often wind up as the game master, and I don't think I have any particular talent for it. Like, I'll run it. I'll do it if I have to, because if I want a tabletop game, chances are that's the cost for me going in, but I'd love to just sit down and play. Like, I remember playing Shadowrun once upon a time, and that was a blast. I really liked being the player for Shadowrun. But then, I think a lot of people want to play. That's the problem. All right, Elgate Insights. Something of a breakthrough has been reached within the Rexarian scientific community regarding the extragalactic sonified signal one of our science ships recently analyzed. While the full meaning of the sonified equation embedded in the signal still eludes us, Rexarian scientists on our homeworld have been able to match enough of the transmission's data on the subspace harmonics to the technology observed in the mysterious Elgates. Examined in isolation, the signal is of little use to us. Analyzing it in conjunction with other insights into the ancient gateway builders, however, may yield valuable data on how these Elgates could be reactivated. So is that 2 that I've got now, or was that the... Yep. Cool. So the game's going to force me to do Elgate Insights no matter what. We're pretty far away. Oh, no. There's a... No, that's still pretty far away. Excuse me. Operatives spooked. Despite having taken every precaution prescribed in their training, one of our operatives in the Lox Ungrak Va Royal States has raised concerns that their cover may have been blown. Apparently, this comes at a critical time for Operation Acquire Asset. As such, Spymaster Flexerod requests more resources with which she might prevent disruptions further down the line. Yeah, I think I'll go for the bribery.
Anomaly found. Hey, can we monetize this?
This toxic and lifeless world appears to have once been inhabited by a moderately advanced pre-space civilization. The ruins of their cities are still strewn across the surface. Don't worry, it's not Sol. How's the war going? They haven't made any progress up here, but
scan complete.
It's evening out a little bit. They're still sort of on the back foot, but runaway greenhouse effect. There is evidence that the current climate on Kovel 3A is the cause of a runaway greenhouse effect triggered by massive amounts of pollution. The oceans have boiled away, and the moon is permanently enclosed in a dense cloud layer due to the thick atmosphere. Scattered ruins from the indigenous civilization can be found on the surface, suggesting an overpopulated culture that perished in the mid to late stages of an industrial age.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete. Anomaly
why
found.
this says 6
Hey,
here.
can we monetize this?
A vessel of some kind has crashed into the surface of this asteroid. Wreckage from the craft can still be found within the impact crater.
Boom! I found something.
Yeah, it is, in fairness, that's on the capital, but it's basically paying for the other ones. Optical sensors isolate a cluster of shapes on a barren surface of Ushikaron 3b that could be buildings. More importantly, we are really ruining their day. Oh, Jesus, they've already got robots. Yeah, I think their population on that world is larger than my total species population. Mind you, now we've got a few clones and whatnot, so you know we have a little bit more flexibility still. A small scout craft of some kind plowed into the surface of this asteroid millennia ago, creating a shallow canyon. There is no visible cockpit on the ship, leading our scientists to believe that it was either piloted by remote or through some kind of primitive artificial intelligence. Although it is too damaged to be salvaged, the ship hasn't been picked clean by looters yet. This species origin? Can I even...
Wow, we really hit this tech out of the ballpark.
Mechanist, right. So they are... that explains a lot more. I thought they were an advanced start for some reason. The addition of internal refineries on mining stations will substantially increase mineral production. So clearly we had a breakthrough with our intelligence network. Let's see if we can get any more cheap upgrades. I guess fusion missiles. Have anybody good at... Yep. I've got more than one ship called the Irid Rock. That's gotta be irritating. Okay, so do they have any planets that we've not corrupted yet? Nope.
Prospect analyzed.
So they certainly have lots of territory, but they're kind of a paper tiger now that I look at it. Well, sorry.
Resource
I
scan
should
complete.
be careful on that. Like, obviously, they've got a
found
big
something.
navy somewhere with which they can crush us. But, like, these are not inhabited worlds. And in principle, if I were to have a particularly good string of luck, or if they were to be sufficiently distracted, I could potentially snip off very large parts of their empire. These are, if you're talking about these ones, yes, they're the Caravanserai coalition, and then I think those are all of the groups that we've run into. There might be something in Sol. And I think from the situation log we should be... Oh, that's unexpected. I wasn't expecting to be at the top there. But, yeah, then our consciousness is getting hammered. I think we had an estimate that there might be 10 different empires in the game. Oh, the Nar consciousness has made peace with the Lox Ungrakva royal states. So the Nar consciousness is humiliated, reducing their empire influence gain and pop happiness for 10 years, and they gain 100 influence. Not great. Although knowing that it was about humiliation, obviously we learned that earlier on in the game. It does mean that at the very least they're not, like, their resources aren't being exploited. Obviously, if that war ended in something that makes these guys stronger, I'm going to be extra worried.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
Big thing right now is just making sure that the surveys have a nice queue of... Actually, we can already make this a little more interesting. Just want to make sure that most of my surveyors have kind of a respectable queue of stuff to work on. This is not an efficient use of the ship, but...
Boom!
Good as mine.
I found something.
Rothier 2, apologies to everybody's sensitivities if that's I know you commented previously that the boom makes you jump. Right, Rothier 2's toxic biosphere gives the planet a very unique color scheme. But yeah, I mean, I still want to see exactly how many ships these guys have, but given that this has worked for us in the past, I am willing to guess that we might have been able to pull off the whole, like, hold them off for a while and, you know, just arm ourselves so that they can't beat us up for our lunch money strategy. Again, we're not in the clear. It's not guaranteed, but I'm feeling quite a bit more confident about my position than I was at the start. And presumably, if they bring their ships back to the capital, we'll get a closer idea of what they're putting in. Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, part of the shift in terms of the military status is also probably the building up of my own forces. So I think it's a combination of the two. But we'll see how it turns out. Obviously, you know, any plans that we would have had about trying to take some of their territories under, you know, while they were tied up, that's pretty much gone now. But that doesn't mean that we won't take advantage of their position at sometime in the future. Alright, a remarkable array of gases are being vented on Hagawa 1, ones not usually found on Molten World. Some of these gases show promising industrial value. And let's go... I think we can do another concealed drug lab. 100% crime? My god. That's amazing. Oh, they made a deal with the crime lord. Alright, the odd factor. A group of investigators have found a hidden factory on Grunner Prime. The building and its state of decay tells of an old civilization, one that excelled at constructing things that stood the test of time. Our population would easily be able to put the facility to use to add to the colony's production output. Intriguing. This is always a fun one. Alright. Our criminal governor is dead. Let's find a new one. So, Iron Fist isn't necessarily bad now that we've got a few slave pops. Alternatively, we can go for something a little more food-focused. You know what? I am going to go for the agri-based one. One, because they're the youngest, but also because I don't think it would hurt to have a decent stockpile there. It's peaceful for my people. All right, and we've delivered on our priority. Although I'm a little surprised about the specialist employment. I'll leave that be for now. Why does this count as a research station? You play 5 hours of one game, you think you're gonna lose... You have nothing? So, I mean, that sometimes happens. I mean, it's, one of the things... Okay, I'll admit, Stellaris is one of the harder ones to deal with, like massive empires coming to barrel down on you. There's a few things you can try and do to tilt things in your favor. So if you can get an idea of the types of ships that they're throwing at you, and you have a way of delaying them, you can refactor your ships towards something that are good, that are kind of a hard counter to it. Another alternative is, depending on the AI, like, so if you're going up against a player, chances are the player is going to be a little more focused on their goals. But what you can sometimes do is, if you can start threatening things that they find precious, and you're reasonably confident that your fleets can move. I mean, it's maneuver warfare, right? So, like, basically, I've tended to find that sometimes being able to claim and, like, successfully do an invasion, or at least threaten an invasion on certain enemy territories, those sort of doom fleets will redirect towards their home territories. Now, the thing is that if you are not confident in your ability to move your ships quickly, or to keep on top of that, it actually makes things worse, because then you lose your ships and you lose the you lose the war weariness, and just generally, like, you have a hard time of it. But I'll admit, like, in Europa, I feel like Europa Universalis is probably one of the better games in terms of just being able to like mess around and potentially use, like, the territory to your advantage and such. Yeah, they're going straight for your capital. Yeah, so, like, that's the biggest one, is that, like, if you, for me, I've always found in a situation like that, I've had some way of being able to distract them or otherwise move their, like redirect their ships towards something that they consider to be important. But obviously that doesn't apply to every situation. I was not exactly in the same position, but the way we manage things with this guy is that we've been constantly working on the charm offensive. They're back to harming relations with us, but because they decided to go to war with the hive mind, we've been slowly building up our military and essentially just kind of making the most of the time. But yeah, that's honestly the biggest one for me. Some of my either through diplomacy, because that was one thing I really liked about Federations. It's either through diplomacy or through my, again, just being able to sort of find the pressure points of the enemy, and to be able to sort of waste their time or otherwise kind of grind things out with them. That's usually been the way that I've dealt with a stronger force. But it's hard. I don't have a perfect solution on that. Extremophilia. Gufral and his crew have made a surprising discovery on Hagawa 1. The molten planet is home to an exotic array of extremophilic microorganisms. These bacteria live deep inside the volcanic vents that scar the planet, thriving in the extremely high temperatures produced there. This unprecedented find is our first known example of organic life forms flourishing on molten planets. Moreover, the extremophiles on Hagawa 1 are in fact responsible for the rare gases detected in its thin atmosphere, producing these valuable compounds as a byproduct of their metabolic processes. So as much as it would be nice to have exotic gases, that's still... Well, I guess that gives me more of a reason to try and take this area, but we'll see. There is a construction ship here, so... the ISIS-eared rock has discovered a previously unknown strategic resource in Hagawa 1, dubbed exotic gases. These gases have a number of tactical and even recreational uses. While we do not yet possess the means to extract this resource, we should seriously consider establishing control over the system for future exploitation. I kind of want to see if I could convert the drug labs into maybe another research facility just to push the crime over the edge. Purple Rain. Images capturing Rothier 2's mesmerizing purple-colored rain taken by the ISS Irid Sax surface exploration probes somehow find their way into the hands of the cultural elite on Kirox's private stash. While the discovery is of no scientific value, the evocative imagery of the colorful precipitation sparks a minor renaissance in the Rixari art world. The positive effects of which shall be felt for years to come. So 10% happiness, I kind of feel like, given our civic of corporate hedonism, well, that and our, I think we also had a trait. Anyways, there was something that made me more inclined to get stuff from entertainers. I feel like this should have an extra bonus, but... Yeah. I mean, that's gotta be I don't know if that came after he died, but that has to be a deliberate reference.
Prospect analyzed.
I believe they also added a Hawking reference in memory of him. Although, obviously, this is the sort of game that would have had a Hawking reference anyway. The asteroid JQQ-1233D is emitting some form of radiation in controlled bursts. Is something trying to communicate with us? What the ISS Laura Nergal found on Ushikaran 3B were not buildings, but surprisingly regular mineral outcroppings. Science officer Axnenkat assesses that these angular blocks of rock are the product of interactions between tectonic plates, their shapes the result of the unusual tectonophysics inherent in the planet's crust. The perfect angularity of these thrust faults implies a possibility of aliens tampering with Ushikaran 3B's crust at some point in the past. You're waiting for someday when somebody...
Resource scan complete.
I think there is an R2-D2 in... I don't know if I'd be able to find... I think it just looks for... Yeah, it just looks for systems. I'm pretty sure there's either an R2-D2... There's definitely a Star Wars reference, and it's definitely one of the droid names that's in one of them. Hang on a second. I also think I'm pretty sure it's an R2-D2. I know there's definitely been Elite, like 1337. Oh, wow. Okay. So on the Stellaris wiki, actually I can show you in the game. Sorry, let me deal with this event first. Rockbrain. A scan of the particularly massive asteroid JQQ-1233D yields fascinating results. The rock's core is shot through with a network of conductive crystals carrying a weak electric charge. The crew on the ISS Irid Gra recognized this matrix as a primitive neural lattice and believe the celestial body to be thinking in some capacity, if not fully sapient. They seek permission to excavate the core and transport it to the nearest orbital station for closer study. I think that's Palomar. Yeah, if we do get it, it's going to be a long time incoming, so make it so. So I'm a little disappointed to find out that this is in the wiki, because now when I refer to things like Russell's teapot, I'm assuming everybody's going to assume I just got it from the... Oop. Let's try that again. Got it from the wiki. Although at least in this case we can verify... What? I was literally looking at it on my... Oh, temporary problem. Okay. We'll just hit random page enough times to... That's got to be available here somewhere. You know what? It's just not. It's not worth that much effort. Let me just bring up my desktop here. Okay, so if you go to stellaris.paradoxwikis.com/Easter eggs, there's an asteroid section. So it turns out there's even more. So 1337, we talked about that one. So it turns out it's not just R2-D2. There is AT, R2, and C prefixes, and then AT, ST, D2, and 3PO suffixes. So you can get like AT, 3PO, or, you know, C, D2. We also have a THX 1138. I think I've run into a HAL before. I don't think I've ever gotten a full HAL 9000. I did not know that there was a TLDR. That's very funny. Another Ulm reference. This one they're saying might be a reference, because technically it's like multiple references. But there's an Ulm system anyway. In fact, there might be an Ulm in this game. Nope. Odin, Veer, W. Oh yeah, the Whopper from War Games. Man, that's an interesting one. And the LV prefix, LV426, which I don't believe was an asteroid in that. I don't believe it was an asteroid in that. But yeah, anyways, That's probably a longer answer than you were looking for, but there absolutely is an R2-D2. I believe I have encountered one before. Want to read the report on asteroid CFF00? Scientist in control of the response email, TLDR. And then, just while I'm here, the Blorg, I think, had its origins in a stream. Yeah, during pre-release. Fallen Empires. There are some things that I haven't encountered yet, so I'm trying not to be too... I don't want to get too reckless with some of this stuff, but I'm just looking for Russell. Oh, actually, here, Russell. Yeah, here we go. Improbable ceramics, reference to Russell's teapot, a philosophical analogy about the burden of proof. Okay, cool. That's a fun digression, but I don't have a full evening anymore, so I'll leave it there. Rock migraine, the core of JQQ-1233D, once coaxed from beneath the crust of the asteroid, does not respond well to the vacuum of space. The ISS Irid-Gras instruments read a sudden energy spike moments before the rocky lump gently but decisively fractures. Large chunks of the conductive material are salvaged. Whatever special charge that animated them is now gone. The crystals are still valuable in their own right. So, Clanderax gains the Carefree trait. They get a faster anomaly research speed, and then we gain physics research as well as energy credits for...
Prospect analyzed.
Our trouble.
Prospect analyzed.
Actually, what's the crime like here? 44%. Oh man, this drug lab's gonna tip him over the edge. They might be more powerful than me, but I've already reduced them down to a narco state. That's wonderful. Again, it kind of makes me want to shift the concealed drug lab into something else. Alright, what's up here? As the operation nears its conclusion, Spymaster Frexlerod has moved to secure our new asset within the Lox Ungrak Va Royal States. Our remaining operatives are poised to facilitate any cover she may need. Spymaster Frexelod reports from the Lox Ungrak Va Royal States. A successful execution so far. We have lured an underappreciated member of the Lox Ungrak Van citizenry, whose attitude and contacts amongst the lower rungs of society are sure to aid our operations in various ways. So we've got a veteran asset. Cool. Not the worst analogy. Wait, what edict ended? Philosophical mindset. Do I want to renew that? I mean, I'm not hurting for influence right now. Yeah, why not? Science ships are still good to go. I don't think I want to renew the operation quite yet. Well, mind you, we only got 65 out of that. Nah, we'll do what we did last time. We'll let the infiltration level tick up, and then we'll do another acquire asset. I'm a little weirded out by the fact we haven't seen their real navies yet. Because there's no way that they humiliated the Nar consciousness with these fleets.
Wow, we really hit this tech out of the ballpark.
These updated space-to-space missiles have more powerful fusion warheads and improved flight performance. I might do the powered exoskeletons. Yeah, it's the right call.
Boom! I found something!
Our scientists have discovered what first appeared to be a sensor malfunction near the corona of Gozam. However, it's still there after rebooting. A closer look is warranted. That's actually, I mean, the pirates are not a bad idea precisely because it would likely
Imagine the profit margins on this tech.
Precisely because it would give me a good idea about what their fleets are like. The only thing is that the fact that I've got this level of intel on them has really helped me in terms of being able to expand the criminal enterprise. And technically, I'm not going to have to, like, I've kind of realized that benefit. But they are going to be almost certainly conquering this Gaia world next. I mean, it's just a middle. I mean, so number one, it's a middle. Oh, hang on. No, this had a species on it, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, there's likely going to be another world that they colonize sooner rather than later. Well, colonize in the War of the Worlds way. So with that in mind, I want to keep the intel up, just because as soon as I see that world, we're going to be putting criminals on it and hopefully making it look like these other ones. All right, the seemingly erratic behavior of tiny things can dramatically alter the way we think about the bigger things. I think... Ooh, Bureau of Espionage? God, these are all really tempting. I think I am going to do the cold fusion reactor, though, because I do need to get my ships up to scratch. I'm going to do the energy siphon. More so to knock it out of the list more than anything.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
The color of science. The cause of the solar radiation resonance observed around the corona of Gozam turned out to be an unusual crystal formation capable of enduring the heat. Having brought the crystal on board, our scientists were startled to realize that the strange resonance was reproducible. First, they exposed the crystal to the same solar radiation from Gozam, producing an identical result to the initially recorded phenomena. It also seemed to create resonances with all energy waves, we sent through it, forming new colors and sounds never before observed by Rexari. Such frequencies would change the way we view the universe. Alternatively, we can develop research applications for a crystalline structure capable of surviving the intense heat of a star. So we could send the frequencies back to our artists. That would give +4 to Gozam, which I don't think is useful to us. Yeah, that's very far out. Or harvest the crystal to insulate our energy weapons. Yep, UV lasers it is. I don't believe the number of slaves have grown. So we still only have 2 cryonic clones, 4 Nubal, and 3 Vengal. I think we've only had 2 pops grow since we last checked. That helped us fill up the Dolok habitat, which was looking... Complete. Oh, no, sorry, it was Subra that we started filling up. It's probably one of the reasons I'm not in a massive consumer goods deficit. Other than, I mean, the offices I just opened too, but... Should be good for a couple Corvettes. So we're still 11 away from finishing this, but again, we're hoping that the enemy doesn't fight us. And it does look like they are using their envoys for something else. Interior imaging of Sayakara 1 suggests massive underground caverns wait below the planet's surface. This may be worth investigation.
Resource scan complete.
Weird, we didn't do this anomaly? Alright, let's just, I'm just gonna reorganize the priorities here. What's the deal with you? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm doing the galactic market a little differently this time. So I do have a personal assessment I have for myself is that I still tend to underutilize it relative to where I think its uses are. And this is largely because when I can, I like to take very long-term perspectives on most of the projects that I'm doing. So the idea of like being able to run 100 years of consumer goods deficits to just get myself into a really good spot is not unusual for me. Another example would be, you know, having the option of saying it's like, yeah, we'll just dump a bunch of consumer goods events on a planet because I can. You know, that'll help with things like immigration and such, particularly when you open up borders, but I'm not really opening up borders here. So the one thing I am doing a little bit differently here, and I wish I was a little, like, I'd love it if there was some kind of a notification to let me know that I was back in, but I can't remember where I'd gotten this view, but at some point I had been under the impression that, actually I think, yeah, I believe technically I'm not trading on the galactic market yet because that doesn't exist, but I know what you're referring to. And somewhere I'd gotten the impression that this was like a running tally. So like if this number down below is really, really big, then the purchasing price, the unit price would be very, very high. That's clearly not true. You know, over time, if you don't buy things, that number will go down. So what I've tried to do here, originally I started doing it in batches of 25, but it was just, I'd never catch it in time. So what I've been trying to do is just wait for that to go down. I've got plenty of cash. Like I could, you know, I could easily get the 1250 and just call it a day. But I'm trying to build myself into the habit of just kind of buying affordable alloys where I can. I also, sometimes when I can, I don't think that's going to be practical here, and I don't exactly want the Nar consciousness to be without alloys. But what I would also sometimes do would be something like this. Are they? Yeah, they're not willing to trade any. But like I would try and see if I could find deals that were better than the market. Oftentimes it was the case that I'd be able to get a really good deal on alloys, so I would often do that. Implicated in a plot. We have been implicated in a plot against the Lox Ungrakva royal states. So vague is the allegation that we cannot definitively state whether or not they are onto something. Our own spies protest that the allegation is baseless, claiming that this is likely either a defensive counter-espionage response from one of our targets, or else a smear campaign being conducted by some third party. Whatever the reason or cause, the Lox Ungrakva royal states have taken offense. Not great. You know, it would be cool if megacorps have the chance to create intergalactic
resource scan complete.
Corporations and treat them as a subsidiary while also spreading your influence. It's kind of how it works already, but it would be cool to see something like that. Empires could buy stocks in them. Oh, okay, so actually, if you're interested in this idea, have you ever heard of the game Off-World Trading Company by Mohawk Games? Living Metal Lakes. Investigations of the caverns below the surface of Seikaro 1, reveal them to be filled with a silvery liquid metal that flows from cavern to cavern in gleaming rivers, pooling into underground lakes. More surprising still is the discovery that this metal substance shares many key properties with organic life forms, including responding to environmental stimulus and exhibiting self-sustaining processes. It remains to be seen whether this exceptional metal should be classified as truly alive, but it may have several practical applications for engineering technology. Yes and no. A couple of years since you've at least thought of them. Yeah. So I don't like. I don't know if this is a game that you've actually played, but like what you're describing, it's possible in that game to buy shares. So one of the victory conditions is to take out the competition, and one of the ways that you can do that is by buying shares in them. But if you do successfully buy out an opponent, the AI takes over running their operations, which means that you still profit from owning that fragment of the company, which I think is a really neat way of handling it. But yeah, as you say, like there's definitely, anytime you're dealing with a company in games like this, there's some really interesting avenues that you can go down. I suspect probably one of the reasons why Stellaris hasn't done this is that in the end, a megacorp is just one of many alternatives. And if you spend too much time developing megacorps,
found something.
Then you're not necessarily developing, the next set of things. So potentially not, another set of influence or espionage mechanics, for instance. But obviously, megacorps are lots of fun to play. So I'm not going to complain. I wouldn't complain if there were more opportunities to engage with them. Alright, scanning the star unveils a small object in rapid orbit. Its small size and high velocity make it difficult for our sensors to isolate. So I may have to build this new habitat sooner rather than later because I am running short on food and I don't have any expansion options as far as my... my criminal enterprise is concerned. This won't become available. Yeah, better not to rely on the growth there. Actually, this seems to have taken quite a hit income-wise. Okay, so trade value plus 10 or market fee minus 10. Let's start with marketplace and better ideas. The best ideas are born from exposure to the marketplace. The more exposure, the better the idea. Plus 10%. Yeah, so the thing about the hydroponic bays is that right now all of my slots are accounted for. The crew quarters I want to keep in the capital, and then the only other two bases that I have right now are in the are at the frontiers. Eventually, I do have a little bit more space now that I'm up to 6, but I haven't quite settled yet on where I want these borders to be. So to basically get my hydroponics bay, I would wind up spending the alloys. And admittedly, it's not the same amount of alloys as if I were to make a new habitat, but I am slightly inclined towards pursuing the habitat over over expanding my star bases at the moment. We've gotten a report from Science Officer Drayden. It seems that a ceramic container is circling the star Gedexis. Most peculiar. It should obviously not be there, yet somehow it has managed to find its way in close orbit. A special project can be issued to investigate the container and try to deduce how it ended up there. A conundrum worth investigating. I have no idea why. I really like this event. Or anomaly, rather. Yeah, my biggest disappointment actually was just the fact that this did not have an agriculture district on it, which in retrospect makes total sense because it was a tomb world. But I think the farming situation is actually going to resolve itself once I can colonize another planet. And the next planet I will colonize will almost certainly come when the when the relic's available. So within a year, I'm going to have a planet with farms. 42 years and 3 days. A closer scan of the debris field around Vega B has led to the discovery of an airtight capsule containing an atomic clock that measures time with unparalleled precision. It has a frequency uncertainty so low that it would be another 879 million years before it gains a single second, and it is counting down to a date 42 years and 3 days away. The capsule holds no clues as to what this date signifies or who the owners are, but it seems as though someone out there has lost track of the time. So keep an eye on it for engineering research, or it's a bomb! Destroy it! We'll keep an eye on it. Tick-tock, Mr. Wick.
Resource scan complete.
So what's the deal with the, why are the profits not what they used to be? This is definitely suffering on the crime front. Oh, because of the employment, though. So this is an opportunity for a new farm.
Boom! I found something!
Scanners indicate that sandy dunes of Sawomia 3 are almost entirely composed of granulate rare metals. Perhaps some valuable resources could be extracted from them. So we'll research that. I really want to get that Empire Sprawl back down, but we're definitely going to need another habitat for that. And technically, yeah, we're not working these admin slots yet.
Another bleeding-edge technology discovered.
Wearing a powered exoskeleton suit augments the user's strength and speed. The military applications are obvious, but it will also increase labor efficiency. So ion thrusters are a really tempting avenue right now. Yeah, why not? Faster ships. So one of the reasons why I want faster ships is that if the war comes, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps before I'm able to help out Stellaris Station. That's going to be quite a wait. Oh, wow! That is not nearly as strong as I thought it would be. So I think it's fair to say that the Kulfriga battle group at 2239 is probably close to what... So this is definitely not an advanced start. That's probably close to what like a full-strength fleet looks like for them. So I don't think we get a picture of what their command limit is. But like, given the fact that we're at 1.9 on our old fleets. I'm not going to be spoiling for a fight, but I think so. Okay, I'll put it to you this way: I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we could survive a fight with them. We'd be bloodied, but we'd probably get through it. And I think with if a couple of things go our way, we've got a very real possibility of being able to to get a bit more aggressive with them and start taking some of their territory. Nanosan, the ISS Lorad Nergal crew is excited to report an unanticipated find on the surface of Sawomia 3. Not only are there plentiful sand dunes on the planet composed of rare metal granulate, the sand itself is almost entirely composed of countless broken nanites. These microscopic machines are millions of years old, their structure degraded far beyond any chance for reactivation. While we cannot determine a source of origin for these nanomachines, the society that created them must have been highly technologically advanced. Science officer ISS Lorad Nergal postulates that the nanites may have been used to terraform the surface of Suomia 3 millions of years ago. And another Elgate insight. Cool.
Resource scan complete.
We're almost ready to buy another batch. Yeah, so pirates are still a fair way off, for the simple reason that the higher my intel level, I'm actually going to be able to see the composition of their ship, and especially given the fact that right now they only have destroyers and corvettes, if I can find out what their primary weapon is, chances are... So, like, let's say that they're either, like, kinetic-focused or beam-focused. I know those aren't the only options, and that chances are there's going to be a diversity of it, but particularly this early on, when there's not going to be as much diversity inside of those fleets, if I can get that information before I go to war with them, we will be laughing at at any fight that we wind up in. And that in that particular case, we're not just taking advantage of numerical superiority, but we've basically been able to play rock, paper, scissors with advanced knowledge of what they're up to. But you're absolutely right that there are options. Another one that would be really helpful, just because as a practical matter, like, this thing still has teeth, right? It's almost certain that they put some defense platforms there. I might consider doing that myself. But, like, this thing's at 2.4K, so we're going to lose some ships trying to take this. So being able to sabotage their starbase is also a potentially helpful avenue. The crew we assigned to work on the Odd Factory on Grunner Prime has disappeared. We could send a new workforce to take their place, or we could raise the facility to the ground, making sure that this will not happen again. It still suits our needs. Although it is kind of a shame to lose a pop. We are 3 days old. There we go. Starting to move that number up. It'll be interesting when we get to level 30 on this one, because while the destroyers are a little bit different, it'll kind of give me an idea in terms of the gap between, like, the technological gap. I don't want to just kind of assume that magic's going to make this number more or bigger than the
can we monetize this?
Bigger than sort of the existing... oh, there's the colony ship that's probably going to take Thrish. Well, no, it couldn't take Thrish. It would have to be a... it'd have to be an invasion. But we do have a new criminal enterprise. A large impact crater has been discovered that does not seem to be a natural occurrence. So we'll research that.
Boom! I found something!
And we have come upon an encrypted data stream transmitting from a location on Neshmet 3. Okay. Oh right, no, this is the same problem as before. So I had a infiltration of a certain level, but I don't believe I can see this owned world. Although maybe if I'm lucky. Oh, that's worrying. If they're putting transport fleets up there. The construction ship might give me eyes there. Alright, Gateway Hijackers. The signal originates from a gathering of destroyed military vessels in orbit around Neshmet 3. It seems a foreign alien power, predating our civilization by many thousand years, called the Sujin Empire, was attempting to hijack the Gateway network using some kind of interference beam. When they were rudely interrupted. Though the beam is active and calibrated on the Gateway's security network, it has been damaged in the assault. Perhaps our scientists could mend it. Sure.
Log updated. Prospect analyzed.
I think also because we are about a year out, what I'm going to do here is take the caster system. We're going to colonize it. So not great for farms, but not a disaster either. Oh, that's right. We need alloys.
Another bleeding-edge technology discovered.
But we should probably make a move on another colonizable world. And given that we can't guarantee the security of Siluria 2 quite yet, I figure Castor is a good alternative. Okay, Star Crazy. The crew of the ISS Irid Gra has made an unfortunate discovery. Like they suspected, the pulsating pattern observed from Voldox was in fact due to a sensory malfunction in Science Officer Clanderax's head. Science Officer Clanderax has turned erratic and suffers delusions about the stars pulsing coded warnings about the coming apocalypse, and of having been appointed as protector of the realm. The crew believes he himself manipulated the ship's sensory data during a psychotic spell. Clanderax is now in a medical pod headed back to Krilox's private stash where he will receive treatment. Thank you for your service, Clandrox, protector of the realm. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Society research gained 986. So let's get a new scientist. So I'm actually a little bit of I'm a bad nerd because I'm not that familiar with. I hate that I'm doing this because there's a pretty big age gap here, but I am going to get the maniacal one. But I have to admit, I've only seen a couple of Star Trek movies, and I do not believe I have seen an episode of any of the TV series yet. So I think I saw First Contact. I believe it's one where they go back in time to sort of the first... it's like an old one, but like it had Patrick Stewart. It's an old one where they go back in time to sort of the event that causes humanity to sort of become aware of or rather aliens kind of take notice of Earth and get involved. And then I think I saw whatever the sequel to that one was, but it was completely unmemorable. And I've seen The Wrath of Khan. So if the character appeared in any of those, I might be able to pick up on the reference, but otherwise I'm pretty hopeless. Adapting the Tianki method of siphoning energy from gaseous matter, it is possible to construct weapons draining energy from enemy ships. Also energy ships. Let's do interstellar campaigns. This is probably going to be something that becomes relevant soon. Oh god, a genius with military theory? Yeah. Favorite species of the Quark. I think you're talking about the series after that one known as Deep Space Nine. Well, I didn't see any series. So if Deep Space Nine so from what I am told, Deep Space Nine is supposed to be the best, if not one of the best. From what I know, and again, I don't know if this applies to the films, but if it's Patrick Stewart, presumably that would be the next generation, because I believe he was the sort of star of that as Picard. But Picard might appear in Deep Space Nine for all that I know. Again, I really don't know that much about Star Trek. Not for lack of interest, by the way. Like I actually think Star Trek is a really, really interesting setting, and I wish I watched more of it. But it's a little bit like if I were to start watching... So I have seen Game of Thrones. I think I've seen like the first 2 or 3 seasons of it. But like if I were to try and start watching Game of Thrones again, like I'd kind of feel like it's this monumental task in front of me now, where there's a lot of stuff that I got to catch up on, and I probably want to remember like all the families and who hates who and so on. So I know there's the original Star Trek series. I don't know. Actually, I've been reading some Harlan Ellison short stories, and that's probably one of my bigger points of interest, because there's, I think it's called The City at the Edge of Tomorrow. It's supposed to be a really famous episode. It's one that he wrote, and I really like the premise of it. But yeah, there's Next Generation. So that one I kind of know because I think Ron Moore got his start on that. So I worked on Battlestar Galactica, which is a Ron Moore show. And I really like For All Mankind, which, again, same writer, showrunner. But yeah, like it's one of these ones now where, like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be familiar with the original series as opposed to Next Generation, or if I could just start at Deep Space Nine based on people's recommendations, or where the films fit in all of this. It's a little tough. Like, I should probably just sit down and start watching some of it. But I think a lot of that can be said about a lot of stuff that I've wanted to see, and you may have noticed that, like, I try and refer to more like stories and books and things like that, and it's a recognition. I've always read that I've actually been specifically making a very conscious effort to not just read, because reading's not a problem for me, but to read fiction. Like, I finished Anathem. I am moving on to other stories, and because there's only so much time, one of the efforts has actually been, oh, by the way, Dr. Duclaeus, I don't know why there wasn't a notification, but it looks like you followed. So if you did, my apologies. Thank you for the follow. I just checked my email. But yeah, no, the specific effort here has been to, recognize I don't have an infinite amount of time in the day. And while I've really enjoyed a lot of shows that I've been watching, particularly a lot of the Apple TV Plus stuff, I've taken the time I used to spend on a movie or a TV show, and I've been taking some time to actually catch up on a lot of fiction that I've been wanting to read, and a lot of it is science fiction. So and I sound like Martin in an old episode of The Simpsons. It is actually reading, Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke. It's like, what about Ray Bradbury? I'm aware of his work. But no, like, I'm actually reading Bradbury's book on writing rather than some of his work. But I've never read Fahrenheit 451, and I'd really like to. And then, of course, some of the stuff that might be motivated by film. So, like, I'd like to pick up. I've got Dune, but I don't think I've read anything beyond the first one. So I'd kind of like to read the ones. I think I've got 3 books. And then another big thing that I've missed, it's not all science fiction. I've never read Terry Pratchett, but I really love Douglas Adams. And from what I understand, Terry Pratchett is the sort of thing that you would want to read if you like Douglas Adams. So, or something that you just want to read in general. So as soon as I can get my hands on one of those books, I'd like to read that as well. Not that big of a nerd, you just love looking into it, reading forums, and following channels that talk about it. Honestly, you can watch from any beginning point. It is important. I know I haven't watched it in order. Oh, it isn't important, that's for sure. Well, okay, actually, that's really good to know, because I'm very much steeped in, like, television as it is today, which actually uses it kind of the same way that Dickens would have written. I mean, we read a Charles Dickens novel, but the way you would have read Charles Dickens would be as a serial in a paper. I think it's actually one of the reasons why television is so good right now is that it's embraced the fact that it can tell long-form stories in a way that films can't. But it's led me to kind of this assumption that most of the stuff that I need to watch, I need to start from the very beginning. And I should probably recognize that most of Star Trek was made, or possibly all of it, was made at a time when television didn't in fact assume that you would be familiar with the preceding episodes. And that instead what you would be doing is you would be watching that sort of 20-minute story for that time. You'd essentially be watching like a succession of short films with kind of a continuity between characters. But yeah, no, I should check it out. Because it's just like one of these things where, like, I don't obsessively watch Star Wars, but I'm familiar with the characters, and it sure would be nice to have that grammar, particularly when I play a game like Stellaris. All right, a new medal. Detailed surface scans on Burritos? All right, Burritos 1 have identified a large impact crater containing the wreckage of several ancient starships of unknown design. The ships appear to be completely devoid of life support systems, leading us to suspect that they were either unusually large drones or controlled by some form of artificial intelligence. Interestingly, the hull of the ships was constructed out of living metal, an exceedingly rare and inorganic material with many unique properties. This metal can be programmed to assume a certain shape or form, and it will slowly regrow itself if damaged. Over a period of several millennia, the surviving metal from the wrecked ships was fused into a large and extremely dense deposit that could potentially be mined for centuries to come. Not that I can access... Oh man, that's right beside Earth. That's cool. Well, sorry, it's beside the Sol system, but... I want a burrito now. Thanks, Stellaris. All the Mexican restaurants in my town are closed. Yeah, I had dinner just before I started streaming, but I'm definitely feeling very peckish. I'm going to need to wrap up in a little bit, but let's see how long... Let's see if we can see the Sol system before we wrap up tonight. See what happened to Sol 3. And that'll be a good one to finish on. Okay, so the construction ship doesn't give me the intel I need on the
Research complete.
Shujin insight. Though our scientists were unable to pierce the gateway security system, we have gained some very valuable insight into how the network functions. The Shujin Empire has been obsessed with the gateways for centuries and gathered all data that they could find in order to break through. I think we're up to 4? Yeah, we're over halfway now.
Resource scan complete.
Yeah, I think the most likely outcome I've usually run into is that there is something alive on Earth, but it's usually super cockroaches. Despite expected projections, Kosk-3 has a particularly large solid core beneath its incredibly thick mantle of unique gases. Our scientists recommend further investigation. All right, let's see it. Probably a little more dramatic if I have it set up against the black side. Salacious affair. The boy's diplomatic corps has been shaken by the news emerging from the Lox Ungrak Va royal states. Our ambassador, Frexalad, who has been stationed there, has gotten herself into a serious mess with Lox Ungrak Van law enforcement. She's currently in connection with a salacious affair invoking an astonishing range of serious crimes that culminated in a brutal double murder. As matters stand, and with rumors running wild among the Lox Ungrak Vani, there seems to be little doubt as to Frexarod's guilt. The Lox Ungrak Van authorities have requested that her diplomatic immunity be lifted so that she can face justice for her deeds. So lift the immunity or recall her for her own protection. We're going to lose them one way or the other, so lift the immunity. Ancient Medical Complex. Astounding news from the ISS Irid Rock. Deep scans have revealed the unexpectedly large solid core of Kosk-3 to be covered with the compressed remains of a sprawling medical complex, millions of years old. Through the intense mantle pressure of the gas giant severely limits the amount of data that we can extract from the core's surface. Science officer Gufral reports that the hidden structures match, beyond a doubt, the technology used in the enigmatic L-gates. The crew hypothesizes Kosk-3 was a planetary medical facility created by the gate builders millennia ago. At some point, the complex was abandoned, and its automated gas replicators ran unchecked for untold centuries, gradually converting the planet into a gas giant. So, a bunch of stuff that I can't really take advantage of, but it's nice to know that it's there. You've seen a playthrough where the humans become fanatic spiritualists and xenophobes? Oh god, so it becomes the Imperium from Warhammer 40k. Terra Firma, our directions inferred from the inscribed plaque were largely accurate. This is the system of Sol, with the plaque apparently originating from the planet our astronomers have labeled Sol 3. Far shores indeed. So is there a... Alright, that looks like it's it. So what's the deal with Sol? Not looking good. Oh, it's a tomb world. A rocky world, so humanity did not make it in this timeline. A rocky world with a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. It is currently experiencing a nuclear winter with dense layers of sooty aerosols in the atmosphere, high levels of surface radiation, minimal signs of life. Although it may still be inhabited, just probably not by humans. I mentioned it before, but has anybody who wants to participate in chat played Twilight Struggle, or is interested in a tidbit about it? For those of you that don't know, Twilight Struggle is a card-driven board game that sort of takes place in the Cold War. It's basically a two-player game where each of you plays one of the superpowers.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
Cockroaches are plant... I didn't know you could get plant people from...
Resource scan complete.
I wouldn't imagine that they would survive, but well, let's see. I'll be very intrigued. It's actually also kind of nice. We're starting to... So, I mean, our original goal of kind of mapping the contours of this part of the galaxy, like we've achieved it, but we're not necessarily all that closer to our real objective of trying to find out, like, where to put the borders. Ooh. I'm still trying to figure out on this. So, like... The thing I actually feel a little bit worse about, so one of the reasons why I've been putting stuff into local stockpiles is for the possibility of taking advantage of the sector settings. It probably would make more sense for me to actually put them in a shared stockpile because of that idea of possibly creating other branches. I don't really need the money right now, so I am going to add to the shared stockpile. Let's add 2. I'll give him some energy too. And it's not really the fact that I'm probably never going to use this. And I know, like, once upon a time you could, like, use these as a bank and pull them out. This is just more, I don't really need these resources right now, and I'm not going to feel, like, the pinch for not being able to work with them. So... You know, at this point, it's just sort of like, you know.
I found something.
It's in the background, so I have the option later when, you know, these stockpiles are lower than what they were. All right, Sol 5C. The measured surface temperature of Sol 5C is in the hundreds of degrees, despite its frozen surface. What could be causing these discrepancies? Wait a minute, where's Pluto? Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. Ugh. White Hell. Despite the seemingly frozen surface of Sol 5C, the planet's orbital path around Sol leaves it blistering at several hundred degrees. Under normal circumstances, this would sublimate the ice on Sol 5C's surface. However, Extreme gravitational pressure exerted by the planet's ultra-dense core keeps the water in a solid state, resulting in a planet of fiery hot ice. Sorry, your nebula. Ah, yes, right here.
I found something.
I don't know if... I don't think I can visit this system. Let me just try. Scans indicate the presence of a foreign alien-made object on one of Ensmar 7's many frozen mountaintops. Yeah, so the closest I could get here. I feel like we've got a nebula somewhere. Here we go.
Prospect analyzed.
I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to see inside of a nebula, but the systems now look pretty spectacular. Special project completed. After almost giving up... Oh, this is the rare event. After almost giving up hope studying the accursed ceramic object for so long, we've reached a breakthrough. The object isn't really there, but rather it is a projection from a higher dimension. Analyzing it as a shadow of a fourth-dimensional object, we have accumulated enough data to decrypt its message. The object teaches us how to improve all fields of research. The only question now is, who sent this information? Extra-dimensional insights modifier added for 20 years, giving the following effects. Research speed plus 15%. Yeah, visually this is, head and shoulders above. Now,
hey, can we monetize this?
Admittedly, I have not played Crusader Kings 3, but I think Stellaris is just an absolute feast for the senses. Stellaris doesn't get the claim for being the newest. There's been Imperator and there's now been the new Crusader Kings. And I think both... But I still think Stellaris really sells its grandeur. Vaguely defined shapes swirl with the currents in Tonobo 2B's vast oceans. All right, why are you not doing things? Oh, because you ran out of jobs to do. All right. I mean, now may not be a bad time. I'll let these three... Well, no. Apparently, I'm a little bit of a control freak. I will eventually set this up for automation, because at this point, really, we can kind of do whatever. It's not like we're really going to be moving out here anytime soon, but... Cold fusion reactor. The ability to sustain a fusion reaction at relatively low temperatures will result in a new generation of fusion reactors for our ships. Let's go for... Actually, the UV laser will... It seems like it's expensive, but we're halfway there, so let's keep paying for more boom. I feel like it didn't take us as long as it is now to... I wish it would tell us at what... Oh yeah, actually, hang on. So, I can never remember... Maybe it is the economy intel. Anyways, I gotta remember which of these traits gives me the insight on the planets. Misty Shores. The science officer Dubaxa reports that large flexible geometric grids make up some plastic polymer, clearly artificial in nature, have been placed in the seas on Tonobo 2B. Visible from orbit, they seem to serve no purpose other than possibly an aesthetic one. So we're almost finished our secondary fleet. I'm curious if that's... Yeah, they still count as superior, but I have a feeling that they're not quite as strong as I thought they would be. Not that I want to pick a fight, mind you, like... The longer I can build up my forces, the happier I'm going to be. But I don't need to be, I'm not going to sell my ambassadors up the river as much as I used to. These electric thrusters use beams of ions to generate thrust without the need for propellant. So We'll take care of that in a minute. Oh man, do I want to go... It is really tempting to go for the cruiser here. Yeah. If I can deploy one of those before my enemies, that's a pretty good day's work. A whiff of something. The ISS Irid Gra has recovered an elongated metal box from the surface of Ensmaris 7. Clusters of small perforations on 5 sides lead Science Officer Farglek to believe that it is not a container, but some sort of aerosol dispersal device. Initial tests seem to confirm their suspicions, as trace aromatics still emanate from the object. A special project has been issued to confirm whether this might be an information-carrying device constructed by some alien race communicating primarily through secretion and reception of atmosphere-borne chemical compounds. Smells. Malodorous.
Log updated.
All right.
Anomaly found. Hey, can we monetize this?
Sensors pick up unexpected activity from an isolated point on Gedexis 7's 7A's frozen surface. Getting close to Sol 3. We've got 3 more jumps. We're going to take a look at the moon first.
Research complete. We did it.
The box is indeed a document of a sort. Science Officer Farglek admits that they had been hoping for a historical record of some other kind of codex significant to whatever culture left it behind, but they were disappointed. The true nature of the aromatic box seems to be a collection of fairly short narratives, which, going by the rapid changes in odor towards the end of each sequence, are intended to surprise or be interpreted as comedic. The techniques used to store and reproduce specific smells is of some interest, but the tales it tells are not. The crew of the ISS Irid Gra are left with the uncomfortable feeling that they have unwittingly become intimately familiar with what certain gaseous byproducts of alien digestion smell like. However, Farglek is unwilling to speculate as to why the box was dumped on this frozen hellscape of a planet. That's really eerie.
Resource scan complete.
Salty. Science ship ISS Irid Sac came up short with regards to its original mission of investigating possible activity on the frozen surface of Gedexis 7A. There is seemingly nothing of note but ice and rock. However, Science Officer Drayden, a self-proclaimed gourmet chef and history buff, claims to have made an important discovery. A chemical compound found in the surface ice layers in several regions of Gedexis 7A, supposedly closely related to Rexarian stellar salt, an ingredient integral to many traditional Rexarian dishes and thought extinct on Kirlox's private stash. This is all the more relevant because we live in habitats, but, this is a little more credible that we didn't bring this with us following the destruction of our homeworld. It has long been speculated that Rexarian stellar salt was never native to our homeworld, but was brought to the surface by some meteorite impacts in the distant past. Science Officer's discovery on Gedexis 7A leads some credence to this theory, though Drayden leans heavily on the properties described in ancient cookbooks predating modern chemistry to prove this alien connection. Whether the salt analyzed and synthesized actually tastes like the Rexarian stellar salt of old is ultimately of little consequence. Just the idea of traditional foods now possessing more historically accurate flavor profiles is bound to stimulate both the Rexarian economy and palate. Happiness plus 5%.
I found something.
Oh, wow. Nuclear wasteland. This world has been thoroughly ravaged in a nuclear war. I'm assuming this has to be like... That can't be coincidental that this event came up. Nuclear devastation. The surface of Sol 3 has been ravaged by nuclear war, and the planet is little more than a tomb. Withered concrete skeletons jut out of the ground where major population centers once stood, and the howling wind is all that can be heard on the desolate ash-covered surface. A local species of insect seems to be thriving in the irradiated environment. Mutated specimens have increased dramatically in size, and some communities are displaying signs of rudimentary intelligence. Interesting. So, turns out, yes, the cockroaches did survive us. But they are pre-sapient, so. And on that delightful note, I think that's where we're going to end the playthrough tonight. So, it's been really interesting. I was kind of expecting that there would be a few more fireworks between us and the slaving despots, but we're slowly building our military capabilities, and that's going to have two important functions. One, basically it's going to make us less of an attractive target. Obviously, that's good for me for obvious reasons. But number two, if we continue on this path, we're eventually going to be building to a point where we can actually start taking some of these systems off of the enemy. Actually, one thing I am going to do... No, hang on. We've got a tech that's going to reduce the costs in a little bit. So at that point, we can really start thinking of taking things like Thrish and Kelforth and whatnot. I believe there may be some consequences for our criminal enterprises if we go to war. Which is, that's a shame. But the opportunity to really cut them down to size is too good to pass up. And of course, it also leads us to the potential of vassalizing them. At which point, I'll be perfectly happy to, just have another source of income. But obviously, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. The biggest thing right now is I want to be able to credibly defend myself. So, number one, make myself strong enough that they will say too much trouble to invade. Number two, build myself to credible defense. Number three, build the military that I want, i.e. be able to invade if I want. And then at that point, I need to make a decision in terms of my overall empire sprawl, the systems that I would gain, so on and so forth. And I'll probably do the plan we were talking about before. Basically, cut the empire here, claim all this for myself, and then the next step will probably be to just try and vassalize them when I can. And in less than a year, actually, we may even be... Yeah, we can actually already activate the relic. I should probably do that right away. And I will have to remind myself to colonize a new world. I was originally thinking that it would be here for safety, but given our military state, we might want to consider this Arctic world instead for its farms. But something to be decided in a future stream. I know it's been a little bit of a calmer stream tonight, but I would love it if you would stick around for a little while. I'll find somebody to host. I will confess I don't know too many Stellaris streamers. However, Night Valian, who was in here a little bit earlier, Night Valian, who was in a little bit earlier, is playing Front Mission. So I realize some of you would like to, some of you are looking for some more Stellaris. If you are, I would highly recommend checking out some of the people from the bottom up. I sometimes run into a little bit of difficulty here, simply because sometimes at the bottom it's because they've walked away. But I know Twitch has really been pushing the #1 position streams, so those ones kind of already get the attention, and so I always like trying to recommend start reading from the bottom up. But I'm going to host Night Valiant tonight because he is playing Front Mission, which it's a game I'm personally not familiar with, but as soon as I saw it, I saw the connection to Phantom Brigade, which is a game I will very likely be playing on Wednesday. It might be Industries of Titan, but I'm probably going to do Phantom Brigade. But one way or the other, I've actually really enjoyed watching him play that because I get to have a bit better appreciation of some stuff that I enjoy playing on stream. On top of that, he is a soft-voiced Brazilian. He goes quite late into the night, and so is a really great one for me to host in the evening, just simply because I know you're in safe hands with him. So I hope you all have a great evening, and we will hopefully see you Wednesday. I probably should wrap up by saying what's going on. A new episode of Oblivion will come online. That's pre-recorded, but I will try to hang around and chat to talk to everybody. Wednesday, I'm going to be doing either Phantom Brigade or Industries of Titan. I haven't quite decided which yet. And then on Friday, we're going to be back to Darkest Dungeon. So I hope I get a chance to see you then. But if not, I will see those of you who are just here for Stellaris next week, same time, for the continued stories of the Space Rum Runners. Have a good evening, and have a good time in Night Aliens channel.